Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the January 23rd, 2020 meeting, 2024 meeting of the Northfield Selectboard. This meeting will be called to order. A few of our other members will be trickling in a few moments, but we have a quorum, so that's all that matters. So first up on our scheduled appointment, we have a 6 p.m. for EMS. Marissa Atkins and Brian Dew. Please come on up. So it appears that you both seek interest in wanting to join our team here for Northfield EMS.
Yeah.
Okay, so we will first start with Marissa. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm originally from Wisconsin, just moved here, living in Warwick currently. I work as an archaeologist. I also worked as a wildland firefighter over on the West Coast. And then I got my EMT certification last year and have really been wanting to get more into the EMS field and see that side of things.
Yes.
That's an interesting background.
Yeah, that's very interesting.
Like a Renaissance kind of background. I mean, it's just all the good liberal arts stuff. What kind of experience do you have with, like, I always ask the question about, like, critical accidents, and have you been in a really tough situation where somebody was really injured, or?
Yeah.
And how did you respond, and how did you deal with it afterwards?
Yeah, I've been in really intense situations in, like, wildland fire, just being, like very close to like, large moving fire fronts and all that. And then also I'm volunteering with the Warwick Fire Department and going on their medical calls, and went on call a couple weeks ago. That was pretty rough, but I feel like I handle myself really well in those situations, and even afterwards, if I just talk to somebody, I feel like I'm usually pretty good at handling those emotions later on.
Okay, good.
How do you handle stress?
Usually just like talking to people is my biggest help with stress. Just being able to like communicate with people what I'm feeling. Also just, I'm a very active person. I think that's how I get a lot of my stress out. I like.
And hearing prior to the meeting, talking for a second about some of the other extracurricular activities you do with acrobatics and circus stuff?
Yeah, and I also like I rock climb and like to run. Like I'm just a very active person. I think that helps me out a lot.
Awesome. What has brought you to Northfield?
Just being in the area, I really wanted to help out in the local community and be able to get some EMS experience and hopefully be able to help out while I'm living here and being able to give back.
Okay. Brian.
Yes.
We'll ask very similar, probably close to the same questions.
Okay.
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
I can't say the answers will be the same. I was born in Leiden, actually. Well, born in Greenfield, raised in Leiden for the first 16 years. I've stayed local. I've worked in a non-profit field at a day program for the last 9 years, and I'm ready to make a career change. So over the last summer, I got my EMT. I've been on Gill Fire Department, which is actually how I found out about Northfield EMS recently after I started there at one of the open houses. And in my spare time, I foster dogs. I'm really involved with dogs and stuff like that. And
And how about you for managing stress and dealing with some of the stuff you have to see?
Definitely talking about it. I can't say I've had any serious calls myself yet or anything like that, but I feel like I have the people in my life that are kind of that support circle that I would talk to if I needed to about that stuff.
Okay. Bernie, Sarah, anybody else?
I really looked at their information and I didn't have any real questions. They both, looked very highly qualified. I didn't see any red flags go up. So I really don't have any questions for you. They kind of ask the basic questions anyway.
Both candidates have all the entry-level requirements that we
Yep.
require and
Yeah.
go through our training program.
Yep.
Yeah, they look okay to me.
Well, we're always happy to have more folks working for EMS, and we're highly, I think as a select board, we're highly supportive of our public safety departments. So I just want to say thank you for stepping forward too, that we do appreciate it, and we appreciate when you come in person so that we can talk to you. And you are on camera, just FYI, but, well, it's on me at the moment, but this is also so people in Northfield get a sense of what the select board does and who works for which department.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm curious, so you're both new to EMS, although you've been doing some specifically you've been doing a lot of work in the general field. What's your trajectory? What do you see? Is this a long-term career for you, do you think?
I think I don't think it's like end goal. I am very interested in like search and rescue stuff as well, and kind of want to incorporate that as well.
I'm looking to become a career full-time firefighter with it, I hope. So this is really entry level for me into the EMS field. It is
Yeah.
something I'm hoping to stay part of and keep up with as well.
Good.
Cool, thank you.
Good question. Yeah.
Well, when I first saw you come in, if you're gonna rock that awesome of a mustache, you've gotta be a firefighter. Like,
One of my first
that's
days
next
at,
level, bro.
Yeah, at Gill, I had a beard, and like one of the first things they told me is, "Yep." So
Yep.
that was that's
Oops.
been the joke there. is
You'll
the
get-
loss of the
You'll
beard.
they're not even gonna ask you questions, they're gonna just hire you off that. But, grade and step, Andrea?
You have the letter, maybe right here. No, there's a firefighter EMT rate.
Yeah.
Okay.
That counts per diem employee.
Right.
Okay,
No,
so they are,
and stuff.
so that'll be in the motion per diem?
Yeah,
Volunteer call, I think is
Volunteer
what it's
on call.
classified as.
right, for EMT rate,
Yeah,
not paramedic. So volunteer call rate for EMT.
not yet, but we do have 2 of our employees that we've convinced to go through the paramedic program around. They're almost done with the first year, so
They'll get,
which is a first that we've actually
Great.
gone all the way
Great.
through.
That's great.
Okay, so, I'll hear a motion then, if somebody would like to make that. Do one at a time.
I move that we appoint Marissa Atkins as an on-call volunteer per diem
EMT.
EMT.
Second.
Any discussion on that? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I move that we similarly appoint Brian Dew as a volunteer on-call per diem employee of the
EMT.
EMT. Of the EMS department as an EMT.
There we go.
There we go. Sorry,
Second.
getting a little
Discussion?
creative.
Sandy will write it up just
Yeah.
fine.
I'll get it right.
All in favor?
Aye.
Welcome aboard, folks. And thank you for
Yeah,
your
thank
call
you.
to public service.
Thank you all.
Yeah, thank you.
All right.
Thanks for coming in, Cam.
Thanks a lot.
Do we know if Heath is going to be absent? Because if he is, I'll move
He
over.
said
He'll be here
15 minutes.
Oh,
very
okay.
shortly.
That's what he said.
Now that you said that, he'll walk in.
Right. I missed it. I had to go home and get my cord. I
Oh,
left my
no.
cord.
Okay. Well, we'll just get right along with the 6:15. Library circulation assistant appointment.
Yay. Hello. Good, how are you?
Your things going on.
I'm sorry. Oh, God. If I can find a way to screw it up, I will.
So
You're
you,
just making too much
Oh,
so
sorry.
Paula, right? So you seek interest as an assistant for library circulation
Saturday.
on Saturdays. What has brought you to Northfield to take up this occupation?
Well, I'm a long-term resident of Northfield. I moved here with my family when I was 10 and spent a lot of hours in the library. I wonder if this is Misha coming up. Anyway, spent a lot of hours as a... young person, and then again as a mother of young children at the library, and then now I'm back again. Hi. Participating in library events again, and it's a job that I did when I was a teenager in high school. Not at this library, and then it's also the 4-year job I had in college at my college library to help pay the way. And so it's just an opportunity. I heard about it from actually my daughter, the opening, and I thought this would be really fun to have something in town and at a place that I love. So
Awesome.
You're drilling her already before I got here.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
you can try it.
Do you
We're
need-
just testing her as, you know, the circulation assistant. So far, so good.
I know she's
Yeah.
friendly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll officially introduce her. Did you introduce yourself?
They just said, "Are you Paula?" And I said, "Yes."
Okay. That's official. Okay.
Yeah, we
So-
have her information.
Okay. So this is Paula Carr, and I would like to hire for the circulation assistant position, the Saturday circulation assistant.
Great.
And it sounds like she has lots of experience.
Well, it's stale, but
But so she's currently an admin and paralegal for the COO office at NMH.
yes,
Mhm.
25 years.
So she can do that. She can
Continue.
Yeah.
work at the library.
She's well skilled.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's probably like riding a bicycle, I would think.
It'll be a nice change
Yeah.
from
Things have
just.
changed.
But it'd be
Yeah.
nice to
But-
have a more personal, public, kind of job
Yeah.
than
Yeah.
what have been doing for many, many years.
Yeah.
Which is just
It's a lovely
spreadsheets
environment
and
too.
Yeah, especially on Saturday, the majority of the job is chit-chatting with people.
Mm.
So it's,
See?
yeah, you check them out, but then you also spend
Yeah.
10
Time.
minutes talking to them.
Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
We all need to talk about our particular book habits.
that's right.
Yeah.
But also the library is a central place for, there's election information and there's tax documents
Yeah.
and all that kind of stuff. And it's really, I really love the fact that we as a community centralize the library in a lot of things. So
Yeah.
Well, the thing with libraries now, it's not just a place where you take books out. I always called librarians social workers because that's really what they're becoming. That's where the field is heading. It's a place for anybody with any issue, with any problem, especially what you see in bigger cities as well, I've noticed. But the same applies to the local level. And part of what just makes them important is as we move through time and stuff like that, we just see well, what else can we do to make them more efficient? And then these jobs help with that, and programming and all sorts of really cool things. So
and the non-efficient social support that they give, right? The non-efficient, hi, how you doing?
that's right. Well, that's also important.
Yeah. Yeah. A little like bartenders without alcohol. Yeah.
Dispensing the books
Yes.
and advice.
Ooh. All right. Yeah, I think we're pretty much good.
Do you have the letter?
I need a grading step.
You said the letter was in here, but I don't see it.
Oh,
The appointment,
I emailed.
it's in the
I
homework, she
emailed
said?
the letter.
Oh, yeah, no, she said it was
Oh.
here, but I don't see it. I don't have a copy, but she said it was in your meeting materials.
Oh,
I have the next one in the folder, but
I saw that. Yeah.
Let me see here. I saw the
We
appointment.
just switched from all paper to
tablets.
tablets, so we're
How are the tablets?
Learning.
The tablets, it's good technology. I would have preferred Apple, if I'm being honest, because they're quicker.
Oh, but they're more
Uh,
expensive.
okay.
So
yeah.
Yeah, they're quite a bit more
Oh, there we
expensive.
go.
yeah.
So you may have it in there.
I have
The
the
application.
I have it. Oh, so where would it be under? Because I
Well,
have
I don't know,
everything
she
right
just
here.
went to check. I don't have a tablet, so I couldn't help you with that, but
It is.
it's
it's
grade
grade one,
one.
step one.
yeah.
But I imagine you still need to see the official letter. I don't know.
I mean, they just need to appoint grade one,
Okay.
step one, and effective date.
Oh, that's all I wanted. I just wanted the grading step.
Yep.
So as long as
Okay.
I have that.
And what's the effective date then? Immediately?
Immediately.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, we'll talk about the actual start date, but it's effective.
Okay. So I move that we appoint Paula Carr as the library circulation assistant. Grade 1, step 1, at $15.71 an hour. And as I said, grade 1, step 1, effective immediately.
Second.
A motion from B and a second from Bernie. Is there any discussion on that?
Nope.
That's good. All in favor?
Aye.
Welcome aboard,
Thank
Paula.
you.
Yay!
We'll see you at the library.
Enjoy
right.
it, yeah.
Oh, Misha, fantastic job in your presentation. I read you in the paper
Oh, thank
on
you.
that speech in Greenfield,
Thank you. Thanks.
so that was really good.
Oh, do tell. What speech? I didn't see that.
So I'm the past president of the Western Mass Library Advocates,
Oh,
and I gave a speech in Greenfield at a
Oh,
legislative
fantastic.
breakfast. So every year we plan legislative breakfasts. We invite senators and representatives and tell them how awesome libraries are.
Yeah.
They tell them, or they tell us how awesome libraries are, and then hopefully they go vote for the things that
support.
help libraries.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was last Thursday.
Oh, fantastic. You're such a
Thanks.
great representative.
It keeps me connected to
The larger,
the bigger picture.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's
So,
good.
Yeah. Thank you.
Great.
Of course.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, we seem to have a few minutes to spare for our 6:30 appointment, so we will press onwards. Are there any citizens' concerns? Any citizens' concerns? Any citizen that wants to stress their concerns? Anybody that wants to tell us how it is without us having to say a word back because we can't say anything back? Any concerns? None? Great. Okay. Review and approval of the warrants. I'll hear a motion for the 1/24/2024 payroll warrant of $78,791.62.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Typical payroll warrant. Didn't see anything out of the ordinary. So
Lots
that's
of
good.
snow removal.
Snow removal was the only thing.
Was the winner.
Yeah, good job, highway boys, keeping those roads clear. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. And we'll hear a motion. Somebody want to read that?
I move that we approve the January 24th, 2024 vendor warrant of $348,261.69, which includes health insurance and Article 13 from the FY22 town meeting for the highway truck.
Which was approved at town meeting.
Yes.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Review and approval of the minutes for the January 9th, 2024 Select Board.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion on them. None. Good job as always, Sandra. Very detailed, very precise, very good work.
There was a lot to cover.
Lot to cover on there. Yeah, very good. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Is that unanimous?
I'm going to abstain because I didn't have a chance to read them. So.
Okay. Majority rules, they still pass. With an abstain from Sandra.
Not for any reason, just because I didn't know.
Interim select board meetings. Anything? I
No,
don't
we
think
didn't,
so.
we didn't do an interim.
Yeah. Meetings and events attended by select board members. Yeah, I'll start. We hired, I wouldn't say hired, we had an interview for a candidate, which we will be discussing at our 6:30, regarding an individual named Curtis Weaver. So, and then, yeah, so that was, that's a meeting I had. I don't know if I had anything else. Yeah, that's it. B?
Let's see. I had an EMS regionalization task force meeting. We did the police officer interview, as you noted. I had a finance committee meeting for FERCOG. and I went to the Q&A session on Sunday, and I went to the FinCom meeting last night. There you go.
Barney?
Yeah, I had Friends of the Northfield Seniors meeting. I sat in on a Zoom meeting with Ty and Bond, and I went to a sewer department meeting.
I attended stewardship committee meeting, Board of Health. We had another meeting on the firehouse policies and procedures and some back and
There he is.
forth on editing that. I met with members of the highway department, and
Sunday?
we did the the open house at the town hall auditorium, which was so great, y'all. And we had over 30 people. I have 30 people who signed in, but over 30 people attended because some folks didn't sign in. And we had the chief of police was there, Karen Boudreau, sewer commissioner, was there, the town moderator, David McCarthy, he was a finance committee member, I was there, B was there, and those were the folks that were had set times that they were going to be there to answer questions. But we also had folks from planning, from economic development, from open space. So we had a lot of people there ready, willing, and able to answer questions, and a really great discussion. It was really great. And then also open space. I attended an open space meeting as well.
Any meetings, Heath?
Just the fire department policy meeting. I think that was all I had.
Come on up, John.
Everyone tonight?
What?
How's everyone tonight?
Oh, good. How are you?
Good.
So, I'll head this off. So, we interviewed a candidate for a full-time police officer position in Northfield. I don't remember the date, but it was several days ago, by the name of Curtis Weaver. Curtis is an experienced police officer with lots of years of service.
January 10th.
Yes, January 10th.
Yeah.
He has a lot of experience in a little bit of police administrative work and being assigned tasks, just from what I was told by him. Investigation, drug task force through the Northwestern District Attorney's Office. He was a representative from Bernardston for that. I sensed a high level of positivity from him in the interview. I thought he was just extremely positive, which is really hard to find these days in this field. So to have somebody with that type of positivity as compared to what I've seen in other candidates that have come forward to us in the hiring committee is a very enlightening thing to see.
It was a very energetic interview.
Yeah, very energetic.
Yeah. Right from the get-go.
Yeah.
Yeah, when he walked in. That's my take.
I was able to answer all the questions appropriately, and a discussion occurred where we felt that he would be a good fit for Northfield. So we sent the approval through the screening and hiring that we did, since there was only one candidate, to come forward here to ask for a vote for appointment as a full-time police officer. And there's other things I think John wanted to talk about with vacation and where exactly he's coming in, because he's coming in from a department where I believe he has 3 weeks vacation.
Yes.
And I think that it would be appropriate if we are bringing him on board that he should be afforded the same 3 weeks, but also to do the same for Oleg as well, since he's coming to be at the 5-year mark himself, which would get him 3 weeks vacation. And since Curtis has been doing this for 5 years, we thought it would be justifiable and appropriate.
Yep.
So.
Yep. I'll just add that I thought he was very community oriented. he expressed interest in doing a bike rodeo for kids. He's done that, I think, in Bernardston. He'd love to do it over here. And I think the feedback, that really sealed it for me from a police standpoint was the feedback from Alex, your experience with him in your career, and John's experience on an investigation that resulted in a conviction of somebody for 5 years.
Right.
So it was a joint. So I think we had plenty of information, in addition to a very positive and energetic interview, that he's a great candidate,
Yeah.
and that this is a career for him. This is a calling for
And
him.
I'll also mention that what you see in other parts of the country, their law enforcement models in a county law enforcement environment, you'll have individuals that will start off as correctional officers working in a jail environment before they can apply for a patrol position. That's not how this state works yet. But Curtis did start out his career working as a correctional officer for the Franklin County Sheriff's Office, where a lot of the success in that job is being able to effectively communicate with a lot of different types of people who are there for a common reason. They've all been arrested.
Plus being detail-oriented too, right?
Right,
Yeah.
yes, very much so. So right there, that told me his 3 years doing that. He has a strong security background. He has a strong background in crowd control and being able to manage a lot of people in a room at one time. And so that was just big right there. That says a lot about people skills and interpersonal communication skills. And just, stuff about the community as well. You can't really be a police officer in this area without having a drive to do some form of community policing. I think that's kind of established at this point.
Yeah. He seems like the full package.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're bringing on board somebody good, but it will be obviously contingent on a vote of approval. So, but just for the sake of the motion, I would like a grade and step.
There you go.
Put it right there. I'd like to see that.
Yep.
Thank you. And if we're okay with doing the vacation stuff, that'll probably be factored in the motion as well.
I have a couple of questions?
Yeah, please.
So, did I understand that this person who's an applicant worked both with you, Alex, and with Chief Hall in the past?
So I've only worked with Curtis in the him and I were there at different times, but I only work with him in the capacity that I'm a booking officer at the sheriff's office. So when he brings me in somebody, the first thing that I do as a booking officer is to make sure that the paperwork of the arresting officer and the department is in line. And every time that Curtis has brought somebody in, his paperwork is perfect. It is squared away. I have all the numbers in the custodial transfer papers where we can legally detain somebody, which is very important these days. So he has all that. He's always had all that, and it's just not somebody I have to worry about.
Okay.
Unlike other departments and agencies, it does happen in this business. So that also makes him another good fit.
Mm-hmm. Chief, so the chair talked about someone who had been an officer in the prisons, had really good security and crowd control experience. Do you have concerns about the transfer of that to the community policing model that we've got going on? That you have going on?
No, and to answer your question, I've never worked with Curtis. I've worked alongside him. Recently we had a case that was the person pled out to 5 years, which is that doesn't happen very often. This is the person breaking into cars and into houses on Mount Herman Station Road and I forget where in Bernardston.
Yeah.
So myself and Officer Weaver, we worked that together. We went to Brattleboro, interviewed the suspect at the time. So we had enough evidence that he actually pled out to a lengthy 5 years. And I got to give credit to Officer Weaver because he was very thorough. And the defendant obviously knew that he had zero chance of getting this one by a jury. So that's kind of an attestament to his ability to do investigations. And as his picture shows, is next to Santa Claus. I don't think he has a problem.
That's true. We did comment on that. It's the only resume we've seen.
A lot's been said about him, but that picture alone says a lot, but I will read, because he's actually in training today, so he's one of these people that has to have his Bridge Academy, so part of it is contingent on actually passing all the remaining tests. His last name's W. This is the last opportunity to become full-time certified to be a police officer, so it is contingent on that. He has defensive tactics this week. It's an evening course. He couldn't skip that. That's why he's not here today. He will come to the next meeting as soon as possible. But I will read for him, which was a very sharp, I'm not trying to lift him up, but it's one of the sharpest resumes I've seen, and it was actually it was a direct reflection on who he is. It was clear that this, I'll just read the first paragraph, but it was a reflection of him. So, with more than 8 years of experience in law enforcement, I have a diverse background in corrections and community policing. As a native Bernardston and alumni of Pioneer Valley Regional High School, I possess an intimate understanding of the local area, demonstrating unwavering dedication. I'm committed to upholding public safety, fostering community engagement, and building trust within the community. My strong roots and intensive experience uniquely position me to contribute effectively to law enforcement efforts in our community. So very articulate, very well put. You can see that he's went to the high school, so this is someone, and I have to say to some degree that I have to say this because coming over from Bernardston, that there's a lot of a testament to what Bernardston built as a police officer, but it is a situation where people have to choose where they're going to work, and that's based on pay, and that's why we have a pay analysis coming, and pay means a lot in this day and age with some of the inflation and everything else happening. So we were lucky to get Curtis Weaver, but we appreciate everything Bernardston did to get him to this point. And I knew a lot of other agencies wanted Curtis Weaver, so I feel very lucky to have him. I appreciate all his training because they did a great job training him up. So thankfully on perhaps January 28th, depending on your vote, he'll be working here. And to answer your question in a long and roundabout way, yes, he is all about community policing. He loves children, loves working with the elderly, he's open to ideas, and he has actually a lot of his own ideas. And because he worked in Bernardston, like the bike rodeo and things like that, those are things that we will absorb from him and let him take a lead on those things.
Thank you.
All right. Well, here I am writing out the motion.
Do you want to read out the details
Yeah,
so that then we can do a
yeah.
moved or something?
So the details involve appointing Curtis Weaver as a full-time police officer for the town of Northfield, Massachusetts at a grade 7, step 5, plus any other educational benefit that he may be eligible for under the union agreement.
Yeah, his associates.
Okay. With an offer of starting with 1 week vacation, 1 week sick time, and 1 personal day effective at the start date, with an accrual of 3 weeks 3 weeks of vacation starting on July 1st, 2024.
Contingent upon his completion of the certification, the training.
Well, he has a probation period, and so unfortunately, if he wasn't able to become full-time certified, if something happened along those process, we wouldn't be able. No one could hire him. But you have a lot of opportunities. I don't even know if that's happened yet. So it's
Okay,
not,
I just wasn't sure whether it needed
no.
to go into the motion.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So
So move.
there we go.
Second.
So Bernie has successfully motioned all of what I said, and that's been seconded by Heath. Is there any discussion on that? That's good. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous passing. There we go. See, that's
And enthusiastic can't happen fast enough.
right.
Yeah.
yeah. We'll bring Curtis in next time he comes around. But congratulations, Curtis. You've made it through the process.
Yeah.
I have no doubt he'll be able to get through the bridge stuff. So that's not a problem. But
congratulations to us and moving forward to, I think he said it a couple times, of being an employer of choice, and
yes.
because these things come down to the wire, and this is tough living. This is I've only been in a small town for 2 years, so at other PDs there's kind of more of a recruitment effort, and you can offer higher salaries. So really in these moments it's tough, and we interviewed one person, and this was the right person. So
So just while we have you here, how many officers are we operating with at this time?
It's gonna 3, and then with Weaver before, that's full-time and 3 part-time.
4 full and 3 part-time. And you're not in that numbers
I'm
you
in
just
there.
mentioned? Okay.
Yeah. Myself, Oleg, Chad, and it'd be Weaver. We got Welcome, Shoemaker, Cowan.
Okay. Great. Okay, well that takes care of the appointment. We'll move on to police department policies.
Do we need to do the thing on Oleg? Do we need a motion on that?
Should we? Well, yeah, we probably should motion that. So how would we motion that? When do those 3
I'm not sure
weeks?
when his effective date is.
I
We
think it was
don't,
March anyways.
I think you're only talking a month or 2 difference.
Yeah, I think we'll survive. That was a discussion we had before I went and
Yeah.
looked at the numbers. But
Oh,
Okay.
okay, so we don't need to
Yeah,
do
I think
anything
we're
then,
fine.
it's gonna happen anyway.
technically, the way it's written anyways is that Weaver won't receive accrual time until July anyways.
Well, that's when, we just put that in there to be clear that that's actually when the 3 weeks starts, but you do it by accrual no matter
Yeah,
what, so it may, because otherwise it was confusing to say, oh, you get 3 weeks. No,
Yeah.
everybody accrues.
I mean, if it's
That's
not
how-
complicated, we could, if you wouldn't mind, could entertain a motion and then Aaron can take care of it.
You could just say on his,
Anniversary?
well, he'd get it anyway on his
At
anniversary.
the time of hire of Officer Weaver to bring them up to the same level.
Effective immediately?
Yeah, effective. Or I would do immediately because then you're only
Yeah.
talking
So effect-
5 days.
So effective immediately at the time of hire.
No, effective immediately. You would
For all.
motion to move his accrual to the 3-week rate. Because it's the accrual we move. You
Yeah.
don't just get it, boom. It's accrual that they move to.
Effective immediately to move Oleg to a 3-week vacation accrual setting.
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
That'll work.
Aye.
Aye.
And I'll
Okay.
let
We appreciate
Michelle
that.
know because then she makes the adjustment in the payroll settings.
There we go.
And that's
Okay.
a small consolation because Officer Kovalinsky's been stretched pretty thin and he's been filling in the gaps and he's always a team player. So
Yeah.
I know he'll appreciate that. I'll text him here when I'm done.
Okay.
So can you pass along our thanks too for, I know he's filled in at different points, and I know when one of the other officers' parents died, he jumped in too. I know you all did, but I think Oleg, just a special note, I think from all of us, how much we appreciate him.
Well, that's important.
And that we're happy to do the accrual, his
Yeah.
vacation accrual.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well,
Is that it? Got anything else?
Oh,
no, you mentioned policy
policies.
and procedure,
I didn't
but
know if you
have
guys
any.
were still continuing on that discussion.
No, I don't.
It all
think
went
so.
through.
Okay.
We're
Although
good.
when I went and looked at my little edits, they were all already commented out, so somebody had already noticed
I
the.
noticed that, yeah.
Yeah, I just put that back on there now that I think about it, just to in case we had any other things to say about it.
Believe it or not, I got to go through all of them again because we have a new officer. So you're gonna be, our eyes will be bleeding going through all those.
Right.
And, I'll fix those edits that Bernie gave me and B gave me that you
Yeah.
gave me.
Are
And then,
you, and just one question too on the online thing, are we able to look at them?
I think you'll be able to do that. I haven't. had
Can you
time
just
to
let
do
us
that.
know when
As
you
soon
get
as
to
up
that
and running,
point?
I'll
Yeah,
let
I
you
know,
Yeah.
it's not critical, but I think just staying abreast, knowing
Yeah.
that stuff's online and,
I actually think I will put you all on it because then you
Okay.
can see. The whole point is that instead of having to read the whole thing every time, if there's a microscopic change, it will show you the comparison and highlight the change.
so we just have to, going forward, then we just have to review the ones that have changed, not all of them.
The system will, I haven't had this system, I have the system that Alex was talking about. I
Oh.
forget the one with jail, but that's the one I had at UMass. And but if it's similar to that, when I edit something,
Yeah.
it will send out an email to everyone who's on the email
Oh,
and show you the draft and the change. So you just hit the comparison button and you can see the small difference that was made.
Yep.
That way I don't have to come up there every time I change a slight little thing because the law changed a little bit.
and we won't need the thumb drives,
You won't need
thousands of pages.
If you don't need your thumb drives, I'll take it back.
Oh,
I don't
yeah,
want
I'll
to be cheap,
bring
but I use them to burn stuff
Yeah,
at
yeah,
court.
yeah.
Oh,
Oh, yeah, I'll bring it back.
Oh, no, not right now. It's in my mailbox. My
Oh.
mailbox, my
oh, I
mailbox.
got it right here on my feet.
Mine's
That way,
still
anybody
plugged in.
asks me a policy question about Northfield PD, I could be.
Oh, keep it, or put it on your computer.
yeah, I think we're good.
That's
All right.
it?
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, and thanks for the cookies. The chief brought cookies to the open house, and
Those are our Greek gifts, but you're welcome. I wish I could remember. Someone gave them to the PD and I regifted them. So. All right.
See ya.
John? All right. Town administrators update.
Okay, so I have a couple things on here, some in response. Highland Ave, sidewalks and culvert, I know there was some discussion. I did watch your meeting that I was not at. I did want to update that both grants are approved and the state contracts have been signed. And as a result, all the contracts have been signed with Ty and Bond, the engineer, to begin their engineering work and permitting in preparation for bidding. So that project is well underway. All the contracts are signed.
I have a question about that. So one of our motions at the town meeting is about paying an engineer
For sewer.
for sewer in that same area. Is there
Yes.
no way to, can we bulk buy? Can we get a discount on that by having them do it at the same time? Because
Well,
isn't
that's
the
why
point?
they want the money now.
I
It
see.
is to do it at the same time.
Got it. Is it the same company?
Oh, well, I mean, Ty and Bond will be overseeing the project. The question is, for that, the question is if there's additional things that are specific to sewer, then that's what they'll have to use that funding for.
Got it.
But the idea
While
is
they
to
have it
combine
open.
them. Correct.
While they have it open, they'll, the engineer
Right, you're piggybacking.
Yeah.
piggybacking,
Yeah.
so they don't have to open it up again.
It's the most effective way to do it.
It's
So.
not necessarily the same engineer, is it, for sewer versus culverts? Or
Could
is
be.
It is in this
Could be.
case.
Oh,
This
okay.
case, they're working on the project because it made sense because they're gonna be doing
Already
all
in
of
there.
it.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. So it
And,
is
and
kind
we're
of
going
a
to be
twofer.
putting, repaving that road, like in a couple of years, right? It's on the
Yeah, I-
schedule.
I think he knows that there's a desire to repave, but he was always holding off because you're not
'Cause
gonna
if we're
repave
gonna
and
dig
then
it
rip
up.
up the culvert
Right,
in the middle of the
exactly.
road. So this
Yeah.
is the first step to eventually being able to do the rest of that project.
Great.
Okay.
So the grant development director position, I have closed, that we have a deadline on that. So right now I'm actually looking to start scheduling interviews for that. So I've been working on internally, who in the town hall staff I want to be on the hiring and the screening and hiring committee, but usually the select board gets involved in those processes. So looking for volunteers to be on those screening and then hiring, because I have enough that we will be screening that position. So
But independent of that, when we are screening and looking to hire, what would the hire date be on that?
it's as fast as I can move through the screening and hiring interviews.
Okay.
So
A couple months, a couple
no.
weeks?
Oh no, I hope not a couple months. Oh my
Okay.
gosh, no. My hope is to start, depending if I can get whoever's going to work on it with me to pick the candidates that they think we should screen, do the pre-screen. I'd like to be reaching out to them by next week or early next week and scheduling them for the following week. So I'd like to be having the screening interviews in 2 weeks, max. And then the hiring interviews would come within a week or so of that. So I would like to be bringing this to the board within a month, tops.
Okay, and we had talked about at a previous meeting, we had talked about changing the job description to include that they would keep the dashboard up to date and stuff like that for grants. Did that happen?
Well, I mean, I think that's just a job responsibility we give them.
Okay.
Yes.
But explicitly?
Yeah, I mean, we can always vote to add that before we
Didn't we
hire them. But
already- I thought we already
I thought
did.
we already did, so I think
Yeah.
the job description was already updated.
Okay,
But
with
I'll check, but I'm pretty sure that we made those changes
Yeah, I thought we
at
did.
the time.
Okay.
We did too,
All right.
but we can double check.
Yeah.
I'll check
Yeah.
it, but I'm pretty sure we updated the job description at the time.
And also, you know why? Because we also had Mallory's suggestions on there too, and I
Yeah.
think that's when you mentioned that.
Yep.
Yeah. So I think we're good, but.
Good.
So
Also, just for a frame of reference, I think we did the police officer ones. I think that was like a 3-week process.
well, that's because you had few enough candidates that you didn't have to do separate screening and hiring.
Correct, but also it was over the holidays, so
Yeah.
if we could have done it, believe me, with Chief Hall, if we could have done it sooner, we would have done it sooner, but it made no sense because it was right around New Year's, but yeah.
So I don't know if there are 2 select board members who'd want to serve on those committees. on that process?
I'd be willing to help. We just have to carefully calendar because I'm pretty booked up. So
Maxed
as long
out.
as we can, yeah.
Yeah. We want to move because
Yeah. Yep.
I'll
I'll,
do,
I'll
need
do
some-
the
oh,
hiring.
I'll do the screening.
So B, you want to be on screening.
Sure. That'll,
Alex on hiring. Do you want to do both or one?
I can do both.
All right.
and I can be backup if it becomes a calendar issue for either one of you
Okay.
Got it.
on the hiring part, but
Okay.
at least we can get going on the screening
Yeah,
stuff.
I'm going to try and definitely get some dates out there, and we usually try to do. I don't know, depending on how many get screened. I try to do them as in the same day, but depending on how many you do, that might have to be split over 2 days, depending on how many choose to screen. Usually hiring is one because you're down to 2 or 3 by then.
How many applications did you get? I forget.
Total, I'm going to say 8 or so, but some of them really are not really qualified. They don't really have the resume set, but there's probably 4 or 5
That are in the
all 3
ballpark?
of you to look at and just tell me who you think. Give me that feedback
Okay.
on who you think is an interview. And so if we do 4 or 5, that would be the screening. And then from there, the hope is to go down to 2 or 3 max for the hiring, depending on how they screen.
Gotcha.
Okay.
I saw there was a discussion about the composition of the Grant and Water District Commissioners. I just wanted to feel that it was at the last meeting. You can't change that, it's a law. If you want to amend the composition and the way they're elected and appointed, we have to pass new law. We have to ask for the state to
Well,
to
whether
do a home
a
rule
district, I
petition.
was just concerned where the town is electing, the whole town as a whole is electing for a
Yep.
district.
Yep.
That was my only concern. I understood how we did it because time was of the essence, get somebody in there, get this process moving, which is a very slow process, as it turns out. So I just wanted,
Yep, and the language is the way the language is. I think the appointment specifies, I'd have to look at it again, I think the appointment specifies they're in the district. And one of them is, I think the elected one comes up this year, and then the appointed one is 2025. We looked at this, and
I think it's the other way around.
it might be the other way around. So one will come up this year, and then one will come up in 2025. So you'll either be appointing or we'll be electing this year. So
Okay.
we'll get that straightened out with the town clerk if it needs to be on the ballot. Otherwise, it'll come to you guys.
Well, and right now, all 3 of them are within the water district.
Yes, I believe so. All 3 of them are in the water district currently. But it's the same with the sewer. I mean, that's the way they're written. Doesn't have any specification on where they live.
Okay.
Business Park Feasibility Study Grant, the deadline was the 17th. I received one very qualified response, and I have set up a meeting with them on Monday, the 29th at 9 a.m. to meet with that. They're coming here, so if anybody wants to attend that Monday, 29th meeting.
I really want to attend, but I can't. I've got a class.
I want to get them in because close the thing, and I want to get them started. Because that grant has a deadline on the funding, so they need to be done by like October. So I don't want to hold them up anymore. So I want to get them in. It's West Matt, whatever, I can't remember the name, but I'm happy to forward any information. But they are very qualified.
Do you have the proposal that we can take a look at? I
There-
mean, just stick it in the SharePoint.
And would you, so I'm also chairing the Economic Development Advisory Council. Would you keep me in the loop on some of that? I know Mallory was kind of the point person on that, but since she's not here and we're in the process, I'd like to be looped in, please.
So there's just the one candidate,
There is.
but they have a proposal that we can look at even if we can't go to the meeting.
Yes,
Okay.
I can send you the
Okay.
proposal.
And do we have data back, citizens returning the information from economic development?
That doesn't technically close until January 30th.
Okay.
So I haven't done anything with gathering it up because it
Okay.
doesn't technically close for another week or so.
All right.
Yeah, I saw some postings on Facebook.
So
that
we did have some
different
and
departments
One or
were-
2 have come in and we've manually entered those. We enter them, so
Uh-huh.
they're being fed in, so they won't be. Just quick, even though it's not in here, I just wanted to let you know that the regionalization efficiency grant for the EMS department was submitted on Friday the 19th. I did submit that, so that's all set.
Good.
And just a quick notification that yesterday we received the Green Communities Grant for $178,910, which will finish the air source heat pump work at the library and continue the work at the elementary school, including duct sealing and insulation.
Wow.
So we got that
Sounds
grant
good.
yesterday, notification yesterday.
How much was that again?
$178,910.
Not bad.
So that we just
Nice.
got notified by DOER.
And who was responsible for crafting that grant?
The Energy Commission, Mallory.
Her work lives on.
Yeah. Well, there's a few out there still. We're waiting to hear from the ADA grant about the bathrooms. That was another one. They said mid-January, and we're all still waiting. And
Well, I'm just going to also say that if there's any extremely hard conservative that's watching this meeting right now that doesn't believe in, funding grant development positions, this once again proves that they're wrong, because the amount of money that we pay somebody to do that position each year, the position just paid for itself once again through a grant like that, and through other grants, and I'm sure the total is well over $500,000 at this point.
oh, we've got over $1 million.
Yeah, so anybody who says we don't need a grant development director can go stick it. So
Well, and currently that position is covered by a grant itself.
yeah, exactly.
But
So-
eventually, the town will have to decide to fund that position. And
Which
my
they
hope
should,
is that it
you
will
know.
have been proven after a couple of years.
It should be a pretty well safe investment at this point.
I
so.
would hope so. And the last thing is just to let you know that I will report at the next meeting. I was at the Massachusetts Municipal Annual Meeting this past week. Well, it's Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
I really wish I went
So,
because I didn't.
But anyway, so I'll put together a report for your next meeting to
Oh,
kind
good.
of let you know what transpired. There's some interesting things that you guys might want to know about.
What's the progress on the town hall maintenance position?
Well, I think we finally have 2. We didn't get that third one today?
We have 3. We haven't received the 4th one.
Okay, so we're probably going to, we were, been very difficult dragging the actual full application out of some of the applicants. So usually we get one little page and we say, please complete the whole application. So,
We got to get that
but at
done.
this point, with 3, we'll start scheduling. We'll schedule the interviews.
Okay.
Do you need to?
Yeah, I don't know if anybody wants to serve on that. For you guys to serve on the screening and/or hiring for
If we only have 3, can we go straight to hiring?
we can combine them if we have 3.
Okay, yeah, I'll do that. I always like doing those.
Technically, you can go 3 to 2, but it usually doesn't make much sense. 3 to 2
Right.
to 1, it
Yeah.
kind of seems silly. So
I can
don't
help
know.
with that too.
Did
as
you
long
want
as
to?
we
Are you
can.
interested? Anybody else?
Oh, that's right.
I'll
that's
do
right.
it if nobody else wants.
I'll be backup. I
See
I
if
mean, I'm
schedule
always
works.
yeah.
Sometime.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Very
You're
good.
like my
Okay.
partner with all that stuff, B.
I know. That's why I kind of hesitated, because you and I kind of roll right through the interviews like the old pros we are. So I'm happy to work with Alex if nobody else wants to.
So when those data come through on the 30th, I would love to do that. I do data analysis for research all the time, and I'd like to graph those up for us. So
Yeah, it may take a little while for me to get it. I have no understanding of how to do it yet. I have all the login information, and depending on what budget hearings I have that day, it may take a few days.
well,
to
I
get
wouldn't
to
expect it then that day.
Yeah.
but
It's gonna.
I just want to put it on your list,
On the radar?
on the radar.
Okay, great. So if that takes care of town administrator's update, we'll move to our first order of business,
Yeah.
which is to discuss the fire department policies.
Oh, good.
Please come up.
Oh, okay. We're just here to answer any questions. I know you just got a copy of it here just shortly, so.
So I have not exactly been involved in this, other than the things that I've said before about how we need to be in compliance and be pretty well standardized and consistent with other departments in town. So this is something that I believe Sarah and Heath worked on.
Yes.
But I did have a conversation with Andrea earlier today about just a couple of things in it. And I don't really know how exactly to phrase that, so I'm going to have her
Well,
say.
I did get it this morning, so I sent it to the attorney. He only had the PDF version, so what he gave you back has the comments, but they're kind of attached to the end because
I see 'em, yep.
we weren't able to we didn't have the Word document until a little bit later. I already wanted him to do that. His basic email, which I didn't print out, his basic response to me was, no town department should be run by committee. And he's very concerned that that's all still the case here.
Well, it's run by the chief.
Well, no, but you have a committee making hiring decisions.
Well,
And-
recommendations to the chief.
Okay, and
The chief is still making the hiring decisions to bring to us.
I understand that, but when you have a committee members that bring people to be
Still to the
nominated
chief.
forward to the chief,
It's still his decision
well, it's actually your decision, but
to
you
bring
have,
forward to us, though. It's not the
you have-
committee that's coming to us.
I
It's
understand
him.
that. You have discipline done by a committee in here. That's illegal. You can't, they
Where does it
cannot,
state
they
that?
cannot impeach and investigate.
Where are we looking for that?
Under removal of officers, under the section before that, where you have something that says that, I mean, you have candidates being interviewed by the standing committee, which is interesting in and of itself, but
Let's address one thing at a time.
but where you say the department, any officer or department of abuse of their authority or misconduct by his office may be impeached, therefore and brought before the select board
Where
by
are we, Andrea?
two-thirds.
What page?
I'm
what
sorry,
section?
Article 3, Section 2E, impeachment of officers.
Is there a
Bottom of
page?
page 4.
Okay.
Page 4 in that. But
So-
Article 3, Section
Let's-
2E.
Why don't we just slow down a little bit? So we just got the document at like 4 o'clock.
Yeah, it just contradicts
so-
your,
What?
And to be clear, we
What
finished
page?
it and they
Yeah.
needed to look at it and that was the
Which-
process that we had agreed upon.
Which we did last night.
Yeah.
And then as soon as we got done, we made a few basically gender changes in the wording. But the department did take a look at it, and because Mike and I, and obviously Sarah and Heath have been working on this, we presented it to our department, and after discussion, and we went line to line to line. They accepted it for us to bring it forth to the select board, and I know it was short from the time we got our meeting done to the time that I forwarded it to Sarah, and I'm not sure what time she sent it to you folks, but I'm assuming it was sometime today, so it's, you haven't had a chance to
No, it's-
look at it and
yeah.
digest it, and so, but anyway.
No, I
I'll hear
appreciate
it,
the work, but
any
the
questions,
yeah
any questions we have.
the
so,
document came at like about 4 p.m. So
oh,
in my email. So
There's not much time.
yeah, no. So what page are we looking at?
page
It,
4.
just to clarify, it didn't. I sent it in this morning and I included everyone on it, so it came to your email this morning. I'm not abridging the fact that you didn't have much time to do it,
Yeah.
but I just wanted to clarify that.
Okay, thanks. I saw it at 4. Okay, what page are we on?
Page 4,
Okay.
Article 3, officers. I don't know if your paging got moved around, but mine has page 4 on
It's
the
at the bottom of the
Yep,
page.
yep.
And it says Article 3, officers.
Okay, and it's got 2 notes. Yep.
And then, but regardless of the notes, where we had the discussion with the attorney, section 2E.
Notes are on the next page.
Yeah,
Yep,
this
yep.
one isn't particularly written because I had a discussion with him. You have impeachment of officers, where you have that any department officer can be impeached before they're brought to the select board for misconduct. That's the first bullet. And then the second one is the charge against them shall be made in writing and filed with the standing committee. Well, besides the fact that it violates your town personnel policy on discipline, which follows the law, that's illegal.
We're not disciplining them. We're
No,
bringing
no.
it to you, we're bringing it to the board
This is the vote
or
to bring
HR.
someone for discipline.
Right.
That should be reported to their chief, who then does verbal or written or
Right.
whatever discipline. You have a committee running discipline. However you want to phrase that, you have
Well,
a committee.
No, so let's
writing
read it
and
out loud. The
filing
charge
discipline.
against them shall be made in writing and filed with the standing committee at
Filed
least
with the
1
chief.
month before any vote shall be taken upon it.
I don't know who's voting. What are they voting on?
And perhaps these need to be flipped in order, but then it says above that, any officer of the department for abuse of their authority or misconduct in his office, so that needs to be there. That was just an error. May be impeached, therefore, and brought before the select board by a vote of 2/3 of the members present. So perhaps we need to say recommended to the chief to be brought before the select board.
I'm just not understanding what impeached means here. Who's impeaching?
Yeah, I
Well,
think
the
maybe there's a
department-
language
The department
issue.
would be trying to impeach an officer.
To say,
for-
I mean, impeachment
because they
doesn't,
did something wrong.
there's no action in impeachment, it says you did something wrong.
Correct.
And that you did something wrong can be recommended to the, we can change the language to say they recommend to the chief that this they.
Then you have a committee,
Right.
you have a committee doing discipline when you do that.
The
You have a
committee's
committee
doing the
recommending.
review
That's-
of what the actions are. We're not doing the discipline.
Impeachment can end up being nothing.
No.
We tried to impeach
I'm just
presidents and
saying
nothing
that I
happened.
think that this could get you sued. Because if I'm an employee of the town and there's a disciplinary action, you can report it. If you're a member of the department, you say to the chief, look, we got an issue, that's fine, or an officer, an issue, that's fine. The chief is responsible then for following up on discipline. Any investigation, any discipline, that's the chief's role. I don't understand how there's a committee involved in that at all.
Well, we don't really do that with other. So
You do it all with every department.
right, we don't really do this. What is being asked here in any other department, and I
No.
guess in a basic organizational behavior, I mean, you don't have police officers being like, okay, look, I'd like to recommend this person to the chief. I mean, you don't do that. That's
Or the
not how it
highway
works.
department, can you imagine if they could
I've
meet
never heard of an
to
organization
complain
that
and
does that.
investigate their other fellow members? No, you go to your superior.
If anything,
who's
there
your-
should be a board of officers, which it looks like there are, a chief, assistant chief, a captain, and 3 lieutenants. If anything, you should make that the squad that determines discipline, if
Well,
anything like that.
If you want to say that the chief then says to a captain, you know, this member has acted out, I'd like you to do an investigation, the chief can thus ask them to do that. I mean, you'll see that in a police department.
So it sounds like we need to re-edit that section.
He's very concerned
Are you
about it being a
understanding what-
committee. Committees
And we will
can
have this
discipline.
recording to refer to.
Also, just be careful because if you do discipline, whether there's an investigation or meetings
They're
or
subject to just
discussions-
cause.
Wait, but the point is, it's done in public, and if it's done in public, now these become all public documents. So we have to be careful where you cross the rights of an individual
Right.
during the disciplinary process, because Mass General Law says that if you're going to do certain disciplinary processes, you have to you give them executive session privileges.
Right.
So you can't do that if a committee is going to be doing this in essentially public. Is that meeting posted somewhere?
Yeah.
No.
Okay, so that's, we'll
So-
need to.
We'll address that.
Right. So and that continues at the same idea if you go to page 7.
Well, can I just,
It's the same thing.
I know, but I'm just saying it might be helpful to have the personnel policies and procedures next to this or referenced in some way so that they're not in competition with each other, because just by stating something like that and then having it be in competition or conflict with actual personnel law or policy, you're already setting up a problem, right? So I think
So we want to go pull wording. We want to pull a paragraph from personnel.
you want to reference personnel. You don't want to repeat, because then whenever you update personnel,
Yeah.
then you have to make sure everything else is updated, right? And then that if they get out of sync, which is one of the reasons why we embarked on this whole thing, was because of the age of the documents. Yeah, so that's just a recommendation that you take a look through the personnel.
Sure.
I get what you're trying to do and to maintain.
Yeah. To maintain
But this was the
involvement
challenge that we talked about a few months ago, which is you can't do something different from employee law and consequently personnel policy and procedure, because then you're setting us up and the rest of the town for what about all the other employees who don't go through something like this? And also, to Andrea's point, if you discipline somebody without affording them executive session, for example, that's a suable thing, like right there.
That's $100,000
I
right
mean,
there.
Well,
So,
I don't know how much it costs, but we just don't want to have to go through that. We don't want to like shoot ourselves in the foot before we even get started. Yeah.
And I
Okay.
think he's just trying to distinguish that that's an association. You can have an association that has standing and membership committees and talk about discipline, but when you're talking about the actual on-the-line firefighter as an employee, they have to go through the same process
Well, that's
as
a good
anybody
question.
else in terms of
Do you guys
potential
have like
discipline.
an association or a friends, or I'm not even sure, but something that's parallel but is not in conflict with employee stuff? Do you know
We
what I
don't-
mean?
I mean, the only thing we do have is we do have Northfield Fireman's Fund that we do fundraisers for and that type of stuff. We do.
Well, we don't have like an auxiliary.
We don't have an
we don't have
auxiliary.
like a women's auxiliary or something like that.
Or
Well,
even
whatever
the-
the-
Or whatever.
Even the
Association.
Northfield Firemen's
Some departments have
Association,
an
there is.
association.
Some fire
No.
departments have an auxiliary
Yeah.
department that does, like, when I was reading, I think it was in Somerville, it was, the auxiliary does things like, they'll be on the site, but they might do like special lighting and they do food and stuff
Yeah,
like
no,
that,
no.
auxiliary to the fire department.
No, we don't have anything like that.
You know.
No, I know you don't,
Yeah.
but I'm just saying that that's the structure. I'm looking at it from an organizational standpoint, that some of what you're trying to do isn't going, sounds like it's not going to fit in an employee thing, because you're going to have to refer to the personnel policy and procedure. If there's some things that you want to do that would be more association oriented, then you might want to set up an association.
Okay.
Just saying, not necessarily on this, because you really can't fool with employee law.
So I have this copy that has notes that I will
Mhm.
hand to you at the end so that you guys have it,
Okay.
or the
Or you just
administrator
send
can
it to
send
me
it
or
to you.
whatever.
But on page 2,
Okay.
section 1C, the note says that the lawyer, I think, is this the lawyer's comments that we're
Yes,
looking at?
yeah.
Recommends removing or a majority vote of the regular members. That, it seems to be getting to the same idea as the other comments. Number 2 says that it's a very, is on that same page. Regarding section 2, becoming a member, it says it's a convoluted hiring process.
Interview process.
Oh, sorry, interview, it's very small.
Yeah, we couldn't make it bigger, unfortunately.
Interview process that
Oh.
leaves the town open to claims of favoritism, bias, and discrimination. Ultimately, the select board will have to do its own vetting to ensure the town is hiring a qualified candidate. I would add to that comment, though, that this is the way we've been as a town very pleased with the fire department, and this is the way that they have been hired. This document, what we did was we tried to cut out the things the lawyer didn't like and standardize the form and the order. So this is largely as it existed, correct?
It
Yes.
looks
Yeah.
like
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
And that was the comment the
And-
lawyer
and-
made, that
and-
he's
and
had
the
the
culture
same
of the fire
concerns.
department was basically maintained.
Yes.
You know, as far as the involvement of the members in the running of the fire department. So, yeah.
And if we need to vet a candidate as the select board, I think we need to vet a candidate as select board. That's what we're doing. That's part of our job. So those are the 2 comments on
Select
page
board
2.
Would you know if the select board will allow the chief to vet? I mean,
Well,
from what we're looking, we know what needs to kind of happen. I don't know what, as far as the vetting process
Well,
goes.
this says ultimately, this is just the lawyer's comment that I'm reading.
Okay.
It says, at the end of the comment, it says, he said, it's convoluted, leaves people open to claims of favoritism and discrimination. Ultimately, the select board will have to do its own vetting to ensure the town is hiring qualified candidate. Have we been doing that already? Because this is the way they've been being hired.
Well, they've been you've
They've
only,
been brought before
all
the
you get is
board.
a name.
They brought before the board.
So
Bring them
you're
in
not
for an
part of the vetting process at all.
introduction.
Okay, so we're not changing anything. I don't mean
Well,
I'm unwilling to
that's
change
his-
anything. I'm
that's
saying
his concern.
this is not changing anything.
And that's his concern.
Did he, before this, come on to and look at what the fire department was doing and say that's really troublesome? Or did he look at the paper and say,
No, it's because we're bringing a document from the 40s into the 21st century, and we have the added challenge, which you've thankfully assumed, is of having some of the cultural components. And as we've said at different points, and I think this is coming up again because the language got reinserted, is if it doesn't sync up with employment law and with personnel policies and procedures that we use for everybody else, this is the time to get that right. And regardless of past practice, if there's something in past practice that has worked but has not lined up with current policies and procedures, this is the opportunity to do that. And I think I mentioned that 2 years ago, we went through the whole process with the police, and we all had to get up to speed on police stuff. We're now going through the process with EMS on the organization, and everybody's going to have to become an EMS expert on the select board. And now we're doing that with the, the three legs of the public safety stool. Now we're having to get up to speed on all things fire, right? So unfortunately, it's like 2 steps forward and 1 step back when it comes to paperwork. Does that make sense?
So are you saying that so if someone wants to be on the fire department in Northfield, they go through the select board first, and then you say whether they can or no go through our training?
No.
I guess I'm a little confused on this.
I'm just going to say this out loud, and please, everybody correct me. So if I go through what we just did, like with the police, we're not, we sit with, Alex and I got on the screening and hiring committee, and we sit with the police officer and with the town administrator and with other police officers, whoever joins that, who's placed on that committee. So we're not necessarily, although Alex obviously has his own particular career, I don't have any expertise in policing other than what I've gained on the job, so to speak.
I'm not sure I would equate it with the police hiring.
Yeah, that's what I was going to
I
say.
would look at EMS
Well,
more.
We just hired EMS folks.
Full-time positions versus part-time. But here's the difference. They go through a process where they interview their EMT, EMS. They submit an application, which I tried to give you a draft application, and I don't know, maybe you have it still. So they submit an application to EMS, EMT, they show their credentials or whatever it is that they require them.
Yeah.
They meet with them and interview them, interdepartment, because it is a volunteer / on-call
Call per diem.
as opposed to full-time.
Right.
They then send you their recommendation via all the paperwork, but they do it through their officers. So Cam, Mark will do that process. There's no committee or fellow officers voting on that membership. That's where he's concerned about bias and discrimination.
Okay.
Here it says that the standing committee actually is making the recommendations for appointment.
Well, that's what I just said,
not
Andrea.
standard.
That's exactly what I said earlier. That if you're going to make up any committee, just have it be with the heads of this department.
Well, they need a hiring process that might involve their, being interviewed by the lieutenant or lieutenants, and then the chief, and then whatever it is. But a whole committee then having to
You pretty
vote.
much do. It's a 12-week hot process, because we work with everybody for 12 weeks in our training.
Right. I think you just need to shift it to the officers of the department.
But the officers do that. All the officers do the training.
So you're vetting them.
Correct.
But you have language in here that expands beyond
The
your
candidates are interviewed by a
department
standing
heads.
committee. I don't
That's
know.
just
I
when
don't
someone
know who
says
the
they want to get on the
standing
fire
committee
department, they're the ones that collect the names.
The standing committee,
Really?
right now, I mean.
Well, then you
this
need
could
to
change,
say that.
Well, I'm not sure then why you need the standing committee at all.
Right now, the standing committee, basically, the names go to the standing committee. It's a three-person committee.
Yeah.
They meet with the candidates, and then they lay out what the requirements of being a member are, so people coming in know what is going to be expected of them. The meetings they have to attend to, the trainings they have to attend to, and that we then, if the candidate wants to move forward, then we initiate a 12-week training program. that introduces them to all the just touches on all the
Snippets
aspects.
of
I,
everything
I
that
get
we
it.
do.
I'm not.
firefighting.
I'm not.
And the
I'm
candidates-
not disputing it. I just.
Let me finish.
Okay, but I just want to say one thing. I think there's a translation between what you guys do and what's actually legal and appropriate for a department to do. So we're not trying to squash everything that you do and everything you've done before, but this is basically the same language, and it doesn't really refer to personnel policy and procedure, right?
Okay.
And when you talk about being a member, they're becoming a part of the department. So I think there's some language or translation here that still needs to occur
Okay.
for this to work legally.
ahead, Skip.
Yeah,
Let me
sorry.
finish. Let me finish.
Yep.
The 12-week process is the candidate or candidates are evaluated through that whole program. You know, we touch on firefighting equipment, we touch on personal protective gear, we touch on ladder operations, we touch on everything, and it gives the candidate a feeling of what's going to be expected of them. We have had candidates who have said, you know, I thought this was all going to be red lights and sirens. I didn't realize it was going to be such hard work. I didn't realize the commitment I had to make to be a member of the fire department, and they have dropped out of the training program. We have had others that have, in the normal way things go, is they go through the 12-week training program. They're evaluated through each of the training segments, and then at the end of that, the officers get together and basically have, you know, say, Joe Jones would be an asset to this department. Now, he hasn't learned everything there is to know about firefighting, but he has had the opportunity to interact with the members and to also get a taste of what the firefighting is, and also has a good understanding of what the commitment that they're about to make is. And at that point, that's when they're either moved forward to recommended to come to the select board, because we've had a chance to work with the individual. They've had a chance to work with us. They know what the job is going to entail, and in all honesty, some of them have never been introduced to firefighting. You know, the only time they see us is when we zing up and down the street. So it gives an interaction between the department. It gives them an idea of what is going to be required of them, and then that's when we bring the name forward to the select board.
Okay, so
and we have a very
question: are you filling out an application? Is the person filling out an application before they embark on this?
They aren't at this time, but that can change. And
we
whether the
want-
application goes to the board
Because
first and then comes to us.
I'm just comparing
or
when
whether
she
the
said EMS.
Yeah, or whether the application comes to the
We don't train
department.
people.
What about
That's
some?
a formality.
What about something like they come before the select board first to be appointed, and then they can do this program, and then it would act like a probationary period for them? Is that unreasonable?
I don't know that you need to do
I
that.
don't know.
So
You,
How about
you
this?
wanna-
I think the concern is here in his language.
I
Well,
think
you
you did
said,
change the
Andrea.
language.
The
Oh, I'm
very
sorry.
first
Let me
sentence
let Bernie talk.
Any
Let me
One
give him a
voice
chance.
at a time. I hate that. It will piss me off. So who's going first?
Bernie, 'cause he has
I
no
don't
choice.
know. I'm looking at it, and you got standing committee.
Mhm.
We use screening committees.
Mhm.
Change the language to screening committee.
Or hire
You guys
them.
have a screening committee
Mhm.
instead of, they will be interviewed by the screening committee.
Mhm.
It's just a language thing.
Yeah. And if we need the formal application, I mean that's doable. That's not an issue.
But because
But I
we're
do-
just
I do-
talking about screening committees,
Yep.
Chip,
Right.
Skip, and
Yeah. Yeah.
it just to me I'm looking
That's
at this going
Yep.
you're calling it a standing committee,
Mhm.
what it actually is a screening committee.
Mhm. Mhm.
And-
Just what we use. Go ahead, I'm done.
So let me try to equate it to something from the police world that I've kind of seen where it's similar, just kind of relate it, because this isn't just something that like the Northfield Fire Department is just creating. So
Yeah.
like in the police world, and at least like when I first started out, they would have field training officers, and those people would go kind of into the community, and they would come up to young people like me. It's actually how I was recruited into it, and they would talk to these people that were interested in it. you wouldn't actually go through the process of buying these people full-on uniforms and duty belts and investing police academies in them and stuff. You take them on and they go through ride-alongs and they just kind of do like an auxiliary program. They weren't a employee of the department. It was pretty similar to exactly what they're talking about, but you wouldn't go as far as pushing them through the door with an application process and making them employee of the town and everything. That would come after that whole auxiliary program and sort of a introductory part went by, and then whoever the field training officers were would be like, okay, this person actually would be a good candidate to bring on the department. Like it's a very similar kind of setup.
But is the auxiliary part of the department, or it's actually a separate program?
It's an auxiliary program, but they're not sworn. Like they're not a sworn police officer, and they don't get paid. So I don't know how, administratively, I was young when that happened, but administratively, I don't know how that happens in town. I'm just saying, this isn't like a
no, I think there's a
an
model
outlier
out there.
type thing.
I think
It's
we're all
very
trying to
similar.
solve it, and I'm not sure we need to do this via group. There are some key things that,
I'm in the first sentence.
yeah.
Any member may have the privilege of presenting to the standing committee the names of any candidates eligible for recruit training. That's got to go. Anybody who qualifies under should be able to fill out that for one-page application and say, "I'd like to be considered to
Yeah.
be a person."
So this is an
shouldn't be a
association
dump-
comment, where
That's
an association where you say, hey, bring your, anybody can bring it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
It's like the
and
Moose Lodge or
so,
Right there is where he's
No.
concerned about
you don't
bias.
think so?
What?
Right there, he's
Wait a minute.
concerned about bias or discrimination. What if no member
a
will
second.
move your application?
Just a second. Go ahead, Sarah.
I think that what Andrea is saying is that in theory about the way that you run the department, there's no problem in saying any member can bring somebody forward. But if you limit it to any member, that may be a legal issue, so you need to say any person can come forward, and in your association documents you can say any member, like bring people. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I
understand what you're
think not limiting is what the legal question is. And then the other legal question that was mentioned is section 2E is about people, the majority vote. Maybe that is an association thing too, where you get together and you have coffee and you say, hey, what do you think? Did you work with this guy? What do you think? And it becomes more informal and not a limitation of the
Hiring process.
Yeah.
You still have to be careful that you don't have we need to run it by the lawyer, because you still have to be careful that you're not subverting the employment process with another process that could be viewed as favoritism. Not that you guys are doing that, it's
No.
just this is the legal opinion.
What would you suggest how we start the process of membership then?
Why is this such a big deal? We shouldn't be reinventing the wheel on any
Yeah,
of this
I know.
stuff, okay?
I mean,
if there are other volunteer departments that stay in compliance, why? This is public policy. You don't reinvent it. You just use what other people are doing. So what is the problem here? What is the problem?
I took a town's application and I rewrote it for the fire department, so it doesn't look so much like an employment. I sent it to Skip
Yeah,
a
you'd have to
year
send
ago.
You'd have to send it to me again.
And I said, they can just start with this.
Yeah.
It's not like a full employment application. It doesn't mean they're employed by the town. It's a way for the town even to know that, right now you could take somebody in for 12 weeks, you're running them through a training course and they get hurt. We don't even know in the town hall that they exist.
Yeah.
But you're actually running them through the fire department training program. That's they could then come and claim and say, I've been hurt in your training program. We'll be like, who are you? Like we don't see any.
Do we want to
so
add a probation?
I'm just saying, at least that point they would just be collected. You guys would take them. You could certainly still do your training program. You know, they haven't been hired or anything to be on the fire department. But then you would say they go through the training. There should be whatever you decide that hiring or screening committee is, whether it's a series of officers. No vote of the full membership. I mean, we don't have the highway department vote on whether or not to allow a highway guy to hire, but you could have the people who are in the leadership positions review that. They could even ask another candidate.
Hiring
You
committee.
worked with him, you know, how does
Hiring
this
and
seem?
screening committee, yeah.
Right,
You've got a
and then-
screening
But-
committee and then a
yeah.
hiring committee later on,
Right.
after they've finished their 12 weeks. You know,
work out how
the
you
hiring
want to do
committee
that.
reviews it and makes a recommendation to the select board.
Right, and then,
That's the way
then
we
you
do
can
it.
move them forward. There's no way, they don't have to hire them to be town employees prior to them going through training. That isn't necessarily the full process.
Yeah.
But the idea that they have to be introduced to join by a member, that he's very concerned. That's
Right.
really problematic. Because
It needs
that
to be
means
open
not
to
everybody can
everybody.
just say,
Right,
here's me,
It's
let me
called equal
try.
opportunity, yeah.
They could miss that because they don't know anybody who's gonna put their name forward.
Hey,
And I just want to ask a quick question.
Okay.
If we started the process by a member bringing someone to the department as a prospective member, have them make out the form that you had done, okay? And then because we don't do a recruit training every certain time. We wait till we have 2 or 3 or 4, because it's fairly involved, and it's a
Yeah.
large commitment for the department to do. So when we've 2 or 3 or 4, then obviously we can bring them, before the town. But I would not want to make them an employee of the town until they have completed the introductory training and then evaluated.
I don't think.
I think you just said that they don't have to be an
I said
employee.
that.
But I just want to follow the process through here. So then, once they have completed the training and they have been evaluated by the officers, and if we feel as though they will make a excellent member, bring them before the selectmen. Is that the process where I think that would work fine. It's just a matter of the wording and the
Right, and I think that
process.
if you're opening that at that period, they shouldn't have to also come by a member. If someone hears you're looking for candidates, they should be able to come.
No, anybody
in.
can. It just
Right. I just want to be careful that when your language says, member may have the privilege of presenting a standing to the standing.
If there's
I think
applications
people
at town hall,
read
somebody
that.
wants to fill it out and hand it in.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
They
fine.
become part of the
Which is fine.
process.
Absolutely.
Which is fine.
We
But-
just
but the-
careful with
yeah,
that
yeah,
with that
okay.
language.
So, but
The
take
reason-
out that language.
Yep.
Well,
You guys are doing and saying the right thing. Your language is not reflecting.
We're not lawyers.
Yeah.
Well, but it looks like the way
Neither are
an
we.
association
She
has
is.
members join, as opposed to you guys getting
Town
people
department.
in through the training to
Yes,
possibly be members
that
of the
too.
department. So if the language is written as if it's association committee, it isn't. It's a town department. We just have
Right.
to find the path
Right.
where it doesn't look like an association committee, which can be problematic.
So the wording, where the wording evolved out of, is because how lots of times people who spark and say, geez, I'd like to be on the fire department, they'll grab one of the firemen and say, hey, what does it take to be on the department? And so then, usually that firefighter will have the conversation with the individual and say, no,
EMS application.
let me put your name forward, and then we can start on through the process. That's how that verbiage evolved, is because usually somebody doesn't come knocking on our door or knocking on the town hall door to become a volunteer call firefighter for the fire department. It usually initiates by word of mouth
But
to one of the members.
theoretically, they should be able to.
Oh, they can.
Absolutely.
Oh, by
But
all
this
means.
language sort of precludes
Right.
By
that.
all
So we
means.
just want to change
The
Yeah.
that.
language does, but
Yeah.
by no means is that how we
That's-
operate.
Oh, I
Yeah.
understand. I'm
That's
not
not-
accusing
that's not-
anybody
yeah,
of trying
that's
to
not
keep
the
people
intention.
out. We just have to make sure that the policy reflects
Yeah.
the reality.
Yeah.
I do
Well,
have a question though about,
Yes.
I'm sorry, did I interrupt?
Nope.
I do have a
Go ahead.
question though about insurance. If we've got somebody training
Mm-hmm.
and they hurt themselves, they have to be covered by
Well, I
insurance
think
or
the
else we...
application process will probably take care of that now, right?
I
Well,
think-
the question is whether, and this is an honest question, I'm not suggesting, I'm asking, whether we did a probationary something, right? So that they are because then we can cover them with insurance. We can say, we can define probationary as unpaid,
Can you a probationary or trainee,
A trainee.
a trainee.
What?
that term?
That's what I just said earlier, to hire
Yeah.
them from the start, and that way they are town employees covered under insurance, and then they can start their program as a probationary period.
Mhm.
Do we pay them?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
No.
I mean,
Not
I,
during
Nobody gets paid for
training?
that.
okay.
Nobody
All
gets
right.
paid for that. The instructors don't. Nobody gets paid for that.
Okay.
So we just,
No.
we'll work on the wording of that.
So step one, it almost sounds like we need a flow chart and then fit the language to the flow chart. So step one is they fill out the application that Andrea sent to you a long time ago. Let's resurrect that, right? Because then it has everything that we need from a town perspective on there, and it covers everybody, including you guys, right?
Yes.
The whole town,
Yeah.
the department,
Oh, yeah.
the select board.
Yeah, yeah.
As Alex always likes to say, we don't want to get sued.
No, and it puts them on the radar in case something
Yeah.
happens. We
Right.
would know that they exist
Now,
as a person. in the
step
system.
2 is the what they're called important from a legal standpoint, do you think?
Well, I mean, I am a,
So it fits with policy and procedure with respect to other employees. Is there some analog or something?
Training, probationary, that sort of
well,
thing.
I'm meeting with the insurance agent tomorrow as it happens.
Okay.
And so I'm
Oh,
writing
perfect.
some questions as to are they then called trainees and
Trainees.
what is our obligation under the insurance if they are in the 12-week training? We take that initial application
Unpaid, 12 week
and
unpaid.
say
Yeah.
they're a trainee, we're not paying them. The select board hasn't voted to hire them, but they are training with us. What is our obligation should they be hurt in training? And I'm hoping she'll be able to answer that question.
Okay.
Are they
Yes,
given a
Brian.
physical before this training?
No,
Not before the
not
training,
before the training.
but prior to
Prior to them
being
being
able to be a member.
hired as a
Okay.
member, they have to have a medical certificate.
So I'll just throw this out here. What we do in my line of work is that the individual is hired immediately. Oh, I want to be a correctional officer. Okay, then they're hired, and then they go through a 2-week crash course academy training to make sure that they're able to competently form the basic functions of the job, and then they work the line alongside all of us, and that's what they do. And then once to determine if they're going to work out, if this is really what they like to do, and then if it is, then they will go to the full-time CO Academy. So, and a lot of other places do that too.
Oh,
I'd want to protect the fire department from there being any bad appearance if we hire somebody and like we don't want to give the appearance of like huge turnover if they are hiring somebody specifically for the purpose of training. You understand what I'm saying? Specifically for the purpose of training. So I just would like that noted.
Yeah.
Right. So that's not held against them if we hire somebody sight unseen essentially, and then it's only for training, so it's unpaid, and then they come in, they don't work out. We need an understanding that was a vetting process rather than a mark against the department.
Yeah.
Okay.
well, that's
And-
that's the whole point. So if you have them go through that period, and the point is to weed out people, then those are the statistics, if you will, the metrics that you'd be held by at that point in time. Later on, if they were fully vetted, but then they kept falling by the wayside in terms
Yeah.
of quitting, then you have a retention problem. That's a different
Yeah,
stage.
Yeah, different stage.
Yeah. Just one question, because we keep talking about all of us are grasping at, EMS and not grasping, but referencing EMS and police. What do Gill and Irving fire departments do? I mean, do you have area fire? I know we have area fire departments because the chiefs are sitting on the EMS regionalization task force. So somebody made the comment about not reinventing the wheel.
Yeah.
Are there, and here we are trying to reinvent the wheel. So is there something that we can, so 2 points. One is there something that we can borrow from another department? I'm just happening to mention Gill and Irving because they're nearby and they work with us. And then secondly, I do know from Irving that, and also from Gill, I think, they subscribe to a service that, similar to what we were talking about with the police, which actually puts all of their policies and procedures online and keeps them up to speed with state and federal law for $2,500 a year.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's the
But that's because they have
standard
operating
operating.
procedures. Like
Right.
you mentioned your 12-week training course.
This is
Those should be written out as operating procedures.
the standard operating guidelines.
Every time this is 84 pages document, there's the introduction that talks about, that's just the, sorry.
There you go, I got it
That
now.
talks about the kinds of actual
Oh,
policies you should have written, you know, when you, regarding all the things that you do, and you already do them, and you probably already have standard procedures that you go through and all that stuff. It's just not written anywhere. Those are the kinds of things that should be in this document. What are the actual procedures so that you actually know when somebody is not performing? You know how to train them, they see what you're supposed to do, and then you can judge when they're not coming up, you know, with because they're not following the procedures or they're not. That's just a sample. It's a standard operating, what is the SOG guidelines, whatever they are.
Yeah, standard operating
SOGs. And that was just the next page I was just looking at to see. But those are actual procedures.
You know, it has probationary period, it has orientation and probationary training.
Yes.
There
But
you
anyway,
go.
So that's the kind of thing, I think that's why when you say they're updating them, they're updating a document like that, and that's not a document like this, and that's why it's a much more different cost structure.
Okay,
Oh,
so
yeah.
let's
Yeah.
try
Thank
to
you.
Anyway,
let's try to
yeah.
come to a conclusion tonight of where we would like to go forward here. Let's all
that's
bring it together and bring it in and have something that
Next
we can
steps.
put for a next step.
So we can, what I would love, as Heath and I and Skip and Mike have been working on this, would love to get, we now have the lawyer's comments. We had this discussion and we'll have access to the recording to jog our memories. And then if you all have any other comments, and then do you want to, what's the document that you have there? What department?
I don't know.
Oh, that was
Just
just
something-
the sample of
Just a sample, sorry,
of
she got it.
standard operating guidelines, like actual procedures that the department would operate under. Those are the kinds of things, like you say, you have 12-week, and I believe you do. You have a
Yeah,
very
we do.
regimented.
Oh, yeah.
Those are actually your procedures. And those should be adopted. You guys should determine what they are, and they're standard, and you want everyone to go through them and write them down and adopt them. That way, you know.
I mean, they are.
Mhm.
I mean, they are in amongst ourselves. I mean, when
Yeah.
we do recruit training, it's all black and white,
It's all
structured on how it gets
And
done.
it's all written down
The actual categories that we go through for training, absolutely.
and underneath them.
But not all the
Like,
particulars
Right.
of how.
That's-
I mean, we don't
No,
go,
we don't
well,
have-
we don't go through each
Right.
ladder evolution.
But
But
those
we
are.
do ladder evolutions.
Yeah,
Right, but
of
those are
extension
your
ladders,
actual
roof ladders, area
procedures.
ladders.
yeah.
Those are your
Yeah.
actual procedures
Yeah.
that should be
Yeah.
adopted.
Okay.
You guys
Now,
have
to
the
answer the
structure.
question that goes
Yeah.
back
You
a
guys
little bit.
have the structure
Yeah.
and you have the discipline. It just needs to be translated into, some things are policies, some things are procedures, some things are handled by employment policy, law, and procedure that do not need to be necessarily replicated. But,
Right.
right? And to take out language that's going to get us in trouble. And then all of the other stuff that you do, you just need to write it down at some point. That would be part of, we're getting on to like the succession part,
Yeah.
is if it's always in somebody's head and it's not actually written down, and then those folks are no longer there, what do you hand off to the next person, right? And it's still up in everybody's head, you just need to write it down too, right? So from this point, it sounds like you then need to move on to like what your actual firefighting procedures
Yeah.
are, because you already know what all of those are.
Yeah.
And then maybe based on the suggestions is maybe shorten up the recruitment, you know, like a pre-academy, like we'll give you like we'll work you for a couple of weeks instead of 12 weeks. And maybe you have people who drop off in the first couple of weeks and you're not committing to
Yeah,
the
but we
full
want
12
to see
weeks.
the commitment. That's a test. The
Okay.
12 weeks is a test.
Okay, I'm
If
just
you
throwing,
can't make the 12 weeks, you're probably not going to make it with the
all right,
department.
I'm just
and
throwing
you
it
know,
out
That's
there.
that's
Yeah.
internal to your procedures.
Yeah.
I'm not.
Correct.
That's
but
internal,
that's-
I'm just throwing it
Yeah.
out there based on what I heard. But next step to me would be, this has to sound less like a membership document, which it still does, still looks like. You have articles and stuff. It's like policy 1.0, you know, we can even steal some formatting, but
I can send you that document.
And the lawyer hadn't taken out the articles. When I tightened it up,
Yeah, he did.
I used the format that was provided to us.
Yep.
And we talked about it together, but I was the one drafting it. So if there's an error in that, that would be on me. But I was using what was
no,
given to us.
it's
by the
not an
lawyer.
error. It just looks different than, it still looks a lot like the original document.
If I may answer one question I was asked, is what do the other departments do? There is a complete array out of 26 fire departments in Franklin County, where three are strictly, full-time.
Yep.
And then you have some where they have a couple of full-time members, and then the majority of the department is call. Some have a structure similar to ours.
Yeah.
Some don't do training until they're brought on the department.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I'm
And
not, that
some-
wasn't my
wait a minute,
question.
let me
Okay,
finish.
that wasn't my
And
question.
some are given a
Yeah.
hat and a coat and a pair of boots.
Yeah.
And say, you're on, we'll train you as we go. We don't do that.
We'll explain it
Okay.
on the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's not,
So that's the array of what's happening in Franklin County. So I
And
just
in
wanna put
fact,
that out there.
the law says the official of a fire department in command at a fire shall have exclusive power. So, and that's, the chief or
Or
the
is it?
or his
whoever's in
designee.
command.
right.
Yeah.
No, my point was,
Yeah.
rather than reinventing the written
Mm-hmm.
stuff, is everybody out there has policies and procedures they've already spent time on, right? We can just
Some have.
Google that. Or,
Some don't.
no,
But-
some
and
don't.
I don't wanna mirror that.
But you can use it
Right.
as there's
Oh, yeah.
templates out
Yeah.
there that allow you to just populate what's specific to Northfield in them,
Right.
as opposed to this editing, as Sarah and Heath know, takes a long time. Why, my point about reinventing the wheel was not to say you need to be like another department so much as if somebody has it written down somewhere that's fairly similar, that could just be edited a lot more quickly, consider it. That's my suggestion.
And I only cite that as an example because it's a good format. Like, I'm not saying adopt this standard operating guideline because you
Right.
should take what they're saying fully. But I'm happy to send you so you can look at the format. I thought the format was easy to read. It had a
Sure.
chart in it. It even had little paragraphs of who's did what. Here's what the captains do. Here's what the lieutenants do. It was real easy to read. It was real user friendly. And, John's policies are hundreds of pages. I mean,
Yeah.
because
Well,
it's a police department. But this one, even
Yeah,
in the
it's-
sample, was like 80, which seems long, but you'd be cutting stuff out. But it seemed like a nice outline to start from, and then you guys fill it in yourselves. Do your own thing, rather than trying to start from scratch. Starting from scratch is hard. It's just, and it just thought like maybe it would give some idea of how to turn it into actual procedures, policies that you would want to adopt, you'd want to pass on to the next generation.
So may I ask, has the attorney had a chance to look the document over, and are there any more comments coming from the town council?
Well, I mean,
You
he
know?
has some in here, he only got it today and kind of wanted to
Right.
give me a quick
I mean,
response. I mean, he was mostly concerned about the hiring and discipline sections.
And I have
because,
notes here, so I'll edit it within the
You
next
know,
day or
the-
two and send
Alright.
it back to
You
you.
know, even in one where you have that
Yeah.
investigating complaints on regular meetings, you can't have committees investigating complaints against people. That's very, very problematic in terms of, but once they're on the department, they're an employee. And there's
Exactly.
discipline and such
Guidelines they have to follow.
that really should be followed under the employment,
Yeah.
like the policy that the town has. So, somebody complains and there's verbal, there's written warnings, you've got forms, you can fill it out. Committees can't do these at public meetings or review them at their next meeting. Is that a public meeting? Is the employee allowed to have an executive session? Do you post those meetings? It gets very, like, that's an association. That's not employment. That's not how an
No.
employee functions. And then you added a whole section on insurance.
Well,
That's
yeah,
new.
that wasn't even in our bylaws, so.
Yeah.
Which what?
The
The
insurance
insurance
section.
Yep.
Yeah, being covered too.
Because there were two, and the reason for that was, and one of these edits was actually, somehow the edit that was in my pages isn't here, so I don't know what happened there, but hang on, let me turn to it. The concern was there's some very specific insurance requirements for the fire department that the chief wanted to make sure we're in the coverage and did so. And so it's just to protect the retention of those. For instance, we can have a maximum of coverage if we're extending past the employee time, right? The minimum, that where it says
Yes.
have no maximum or minimum, that had already been edited, so
No,
I don't know why it
It's
looks like
not
that.
legal. You can't, our insurance policy is not gonna cover somebody till they're 100 years old. And the insurance agent already said,
Okay,
there
so-
are already maximums.
What is
And
the
for
maximum?
specific, well, I'm meeting with her tomorrow, I gave
Yeah.
her this provision, but we went over this with Skip, like they cover
Yeah,
to
they
a
did.
certain age for this type of thing, they cover only like heart and stuff to this age. If you wanna add to no age minimum, you're gonna pay for
Got
that.
it.
Right. But
So
I
there
never
is-
got a breakdown on that though, Andrea. When we met with her, because there was a
Yeah.
question as far as were the firefighters covered from the time that they respond to the time that they return to the station was one question. The other one was the junior firefighters, if they were covered, which they are.
Well, but I'm just
okay?
saying, say we're also
But I
asking now
didn't,
about training.
I never got a breakdown on age and what part and what was covered under that. I as the head department head, never got that from the
Well, I
la-
get
the
it.
la-
There's
the-
law.
The lady from Chubb.
It's the law.
Okay.
I mean, there's law on what you have to cover for firefighters. That's why we have separate insurance. That's all
Because
the old McNamara law.
Okay.
We have to cover certain things by law, and that's why we have a
Mm-hmm.
separate policy for police, fire, and EMS. They have to be covered by what used to be called the McNamara law. And they have special provisions on top of employee. That's why it's injured on duty and not
So
workers'
is
comp.
it fair to say that
I
you
never
don't
got that.
have to put it in a departmental policy and
No,
procedure because
you don't
it's
need it at
actually
all.
Mass General law?
But I mean, I can certainly get, the breakdowns, because we do have the policy.
I know she said that
Compliance.
it wasn't stated in the initial policy when we transferred to Chubb, but she said that it was going to be in the renewed policy.
Okay,
And
I'll
I
get
haven't
all that
gotten
from
that
Joanne.
yet, so,
Okay,
Okay.
I will get her to give me all that.
yeah, okay.
Because that's injured on duty, and that's police, fire, EMS. They
Mm-hmm.
all covered. And you guys passed 111F, which is a whole nother,
Yes.
111F and 111M, which is a whole nother set of
Mhm.
laws about your responsibility as a town for
For
injured on
insurance,
duty.
yeah,
So putting that all in here is,
yeah,
Okay.
it's all Mass General
yeah,
law.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
All right.
So,
so it's simpler.
So I'll edit this based on this and send it back to you guys, and then Andrea's gonna send this template.
Yeah,
You've
just-
already got many of those already in your training. The
Mhm.
concern was whether or not it was gonna be included in this document or not. And so,
does that have to be in this document or just referenced?
What?
To SOGs.
Those
SOGs?
are your procedures.
Yeah.
That's what your document should actually be. This should be sort of integrated into that.
Yeah.
Actually, and you should have one document that is policies and procedures.
Mhm.
you've got that in writing, so
So when you
We
mention
can
the
work on
training
that.
of like
Mhm.
when you
Mhm.
start to talk about the training, you're then going, you talk about this is our procedure and we have the training. It's a 12-week training. Here's what the training includes. So they all fit together. Policies and procedures are one thing. But I'll send it. You take a look at
Okay,
it. You
take a
can
look.
change it
Take a-
around
take a
to
look.
whatever suits you guys, but
Should,
generally you don't need two documents. Usually it's one coordinated.
we've got a lot of reappointments too.
huh?
We have a lot of reappointments.
Yeah, should we, I'm gonna ask the chairman, should we reconvene to get together again? I'm asking Heath, I don't wanna overstep my authority here, but,
No. Yeah, of course.
okay. Once we do we'll get together. Thank you.
Thanks, man.
But you're gonna incorporate
I'm going to
the,
send that to all three of you just so you can see it.
Yeah,
I just
yeah.
I didn't want to print the
Four,
whole
all
document.
four of us.
Yeah.
Sure,
Yeah,
sure,
yeah.
absolutely, whoever you want. I didn't want to print the whole document, it's just a sample, but I thought the table of contents was interesting to
Yeah.
look at. It's not
It's
all
good, isn't it?
applicable, we
So-
wouldn't need it all.
can you resend the
Yep,
application?
already made a note.
And then copy, can we also see it as the document? Because we're just looking tonight at like EMS applications, for example, so. Just so we've all seen it, and then that's your starting point for your 12-week
Yeah.
program.
And edit it.
Yeah,
added it to what
right.
works for you
Yeah.
guys. I just thought
Sure.
it puts the town on notice as to
Mhm.
who they are, where they live,
Yeah.
what's their address, what's their phone number. It doesn't ask for your employment history and all that. I cut it way down. It's just it's the
Okay.
basics.
And then if they make it through the 12 weeks, then they would fill out a longer application with.
Possibly. It depends on if you
Possibly.
need. You don't necessarily need their employment. It may just be
Okay.
that document is accurate, and you come forward with that document and showing they've completed the training, and you may be then recommending them for the department.
With a recommendation
Right,
from
you
me.
don't necessarily
Like you
need
would
that
add
full-
something
Yeah.
fire specific at the end.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Like, here's the initial one, you go through 12 weeks, when you get to the end, you add, they completed the following things.
Mhm.
Boom,
And it's done.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't need a
Okay.
whole employment
Yeah.
application.
No, but I think if you're documenting anyway and you're making a decision
Mhm.
about who to recommend forward, it's best to have some documentation, particularly if they failed certain things that are necessary to being a firefighter.
Okay.
Right? Just in
Right.
case
And
somebody
you can amend
complains.
that to whatever procedure and policy you come up with, it's amended, and then there's the application, and
Yeah.
whatever you decide is a certification
Yeah.
certificate. Whatever you do normally, just put it in there and make it
Okay.
yours, your own.
Fire chief succession plan, process to review and appoint a new fire chief.
That's on you guys.
Mhm.
What's your plan?
We were supposed to have a committee put together. I think that's the next part of the plan. Is to create that committee. I think that's where we left off. Am I wrong? Right?
That's correct. And what will that committee consist of? What variety?
I don't know if I,
I don't
have
have
that
it
with me
my
right
notes
here.
offhand.
I'm not sure you got further than that. I think there was some discussion on whether,
No, we didn't. We just labeled it as an action item that we needed to take, and
Right.
it was in the future.
because it wasn't like you need a full committee, like
That's-
with the fire,
yeah.
with the police chief, you're like, oh, they're in community service and all that, so you wanted a community forum, what do we want from our police chief? I don't think that you felt that you needed that full piece for the fire chief, but yeah, I don't think you ever got to like, what does that look like? And obviously the the members wanted to be part of that committee and how that was gonna be made out. I don't think you got,
Right.
I don't
No.
think you got into that.
We did not.
And what you're gonna require, like, is someone just gonna fill out their certifications, like, what do you guys want that process to look like?
Well, think anybody who's interested in being chief should fill out a job application. And then after that, then we have to have a committee of, I would say probably a good amount of the committee should be members of the fire department, and then the rest can be us. I don't really know.
I think we're talking about exactly what the committee should be trying to figure out. You know, having meetings together, figuring out what the minimum requirements are for fire chief, and everything else that would have to go in line with hiring a new person. Just vetting all of it.
Yeah.
And there's state requirements to be a fire chief, right? And no? Just
No.
Not
Correct.
really, huh? I
And
just,
it
I
would
just
be
questioned.
jacket.
No, there actually isn't a set standard for fire
Okay,
chiefs.
I just
in-
was
in the
asking, I
county.
wasn't sure
There's
if there
classes
was.
you can take, there's
There are
certifications,
classes
but-
you can get, and
Okay.
there's certifications you can get.
But you guys have to
Uh-huh.
determine what
We
you,
have to
Yeah.
determine it.
We
Okay.
have to, if
Yeah.
you look at, like, I think we looked at Whately, this was back last summer, when they hired, because they just went through their, yep. Is what kinds of, and I think we also have that in the job description as well, as what kinds of certifications.
Mhm.
So they're not, the certifications are not necessarily covered by state law, but there are
Right.
professional training that you go through, and it takes X number of hours, and each line is something specific to firefighting, right?
Yeah, there's.
Hazmat,
Yeah, hazmat recognition.
Right.
There are.
right, there's several
some.
different areas that,
Yeah,
it's not a free-form thing, just
Yeah.
because it's not listed under state law, but
Right.
professionally, you guys have certification sheets for different kinds of firefighting activities. The one that comes to mind that I saw somewhere was a hazmat. You go through individual lines and course, the lines represent hours of coursework on a particular aspect of hazmat work, right?
depending on the level of hazmat certification you're looking for.
Correct, there's different levels of
Oh, yeah.
certification.
So
Yeah.
for a call volunteer chief, it's nowhere near as in depth as it is for the Worcester Fire Chief or anything of that nature. So, but there are different certifications. There's also a delegation of authority from the state fire marshal's office.
Correct.
Whoever is the fire chief for inspections and permits and certificates that have to be issued. So there are
Right, and the
criteria
inspections,
for-
I think the other thing is the paperwork that's associated with that.
Mhm.
There's record keeping that the fire chief is responsible for,
Yeah.
thinking of the department head pieces of being a fire chief, right? So if
Yeah.
you do the inspections, there's the technical work, but then there's also the record keeping, the administrative part of it. All of that would
But
be.
that's also in the job description.
Well, yeah, I was just wondering if maybe you guys want to do like you've just done for policies and procedures, put together with a couple of members of the fire department and a couple of select board members, just a working group to put together a packet or and say, fire chief job description, fire chief certifications you all agree on that you'd like to see, what kind of application or resume you'd like to see from them, and put a working group put together that.
Isn't that what we're talking about with the succession committee?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
but are you going to do it with a
Exactly.
whole huge committee, or just do you want to start with
I'm
a
not
working
talking
group?
huge. I'm talking what, 7 people maybe.
Okay, well, you can decide putting that. I was
Working
thinking a
group,
small group, and
succession
then.
committee. I think that's what the purpose of the succession committee was from the start.
But
of
then
the
I
discussion.
was thinking the succession committee is going to take that information and then start interview and hire from that. But maybe
I don't see
they're
why
going to do
they
both.
can't do that work.
They could. Yeah.
Yeah, and then we just went over the job description for,
Yeah, that's
Skip.
pretty current.
but that's current. So I mean, I had a lot of the requirements there. I'm thinking those are good.
Yeah.
If they were good enough for you,
Yeah.
they should be good
I
enough
don't
for
think you
the
have to
next person.
remake all these. I think you just have to put together what your packet looks like.
Yeah.
Okay, here's our job description. It's fine. What do we agree on? We want the person to have for trainings and certifications. What do we
Well,
agree on, you guys?
The department is going to know that
For a
best.
resume or
The
application.
department will know that better than we will, so that's why their
as-
implementation into the committee will be important.
Well, yes, obviously they're going to be.
So
They're
how many
gonna
members
know.
do we want? Do we want 5, 7? I mean, we want like three
think that-
firefighters, a couple select board.
I think we originally, when we were talking or throwing it out, I think we were talking about 7, but
Okay.
I'm not sure. And I'm not exactly sure what the breakdown was.
Yeah, I'm just
I
sure
don't-
I
I don't
just
think we
threw
ever got
something
to that
out.
point, but
Yeah.
I think we were talking. I'm trying to remember it, but I got written down here: 2 fire, an EMS, select board, police, and 2 citizens. That's
Yeah.
kind of what I had off the top of my head. But if a different composition makes sense, then if there's other people you guys feel like would be valuable, other than what I've mentioned,
yeah.
What did you said it so fast?
2 fire, 1 EMS, 1 select board, 1 police, and 2 citizens.
Well, why is the EMS?
They're working together.
Okay.
I mean, we had EMS on the police chief, didn't we?
Each branch of the first responder industry should be represented.
Yep. I think we did that with the police chief. I can't remember. I think we had somebody from
Yeah.
fire and EMS.
What I'm thinking about as you're talking, Heath, is does it make sense to have a smaller working group that kind of pulls everything together for a larger group rather than having 7 people kind of work on pulling together all the documents? Like, I'm looking at you two and you two, right? Of what are all the documents that a succession
Application looks like.
that a succession committee would be looking at, because you really can't have police and everybody else spending all of that time figuring out what the documents are. Then you have 7 people who are just like we're doing tonight, actually, like, well, I think that when actually pull together a packet and then let the 7 people go, I think the packet looks good. I would add like a couple of more things, or I'd like to see more of this, and then go from there.
Yeah, I mean, it could be
Like working group, then
it
a
could be a
larger
working group
committee.
of this committee.
I think it makes sense also because if we're going to go forward on this, finish this up, we'll be pretty steeped in it. It might be a good time to start saying, hey, what belongs in that packet? It's kind of like
Yeah.
we could do it at the same time almost.
Yeah, makes sense.
It's almost like a
Right.
primer
like the fire chief
Similar
job
to what we
description?
talked about
What
before, we
certifications
have to
do
get
you
up to
want?
speed on,
What do you
all
want
of
the
us have to get
application
up to
resume
speed
to
on.
look like?
If there are
There's
legal
Yeah.
requirements,
Okay.
whatever.
Well,
define it.
You know, I send what you need as the chief hiring officer.
Yeah, but you guys decide what you want.
Okay. But that list that you just cited, that you just rattled off, send it.
Seems to be what, yeah, you guys are talking round and round about, so that's what I was thinking of.
And that's a
task
good,
force
that'll
to-
just be a good starting point,
Okay.
the list.
So we
Great.
can take that task on after we get this completed, right?
Yes.
Thank you.
One at a time. One thing at a time.
Well, you'll have some
Thank you.
overlap.
Yeah, I
And we don't
understand
have a
that.
ton of time
I
because we're
understand
already, Skip, I'm just gonna point out, we're
Yeah.
already almost in February, right?
Yeah.
So, and we started talking about succession like last year, so let's not put it off.
No, I'm not talking about putting it out. I'm talking
Don't-
about getting one task
Yeah,
done and
I'm
then
gonna
moving
get
on
all
to the
project
next.
management again, and you
So
don't want
I'm gonna assume
that.
that you two
Yeah.
are sort of moving into that packet formation thing, and then you guys will come together and decide the larger group with the members.
Then you
from
guys can
once you've
present
created
it.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm willing.
That'd be helpful.
Okay.
Okay, if we're good, then we're going to move on to reappointments at this time.
Can we just read them all?
So what I'm going to do, I'm going to read them all, and then someone can create a motion so we can get moving here. Okay, reappointments. Floyd Donnell III as chief, Mike Quinn assistant chief, Rob Hunter captain, Jeff Grover first lieutenant, Chris Kalinowski second lieutenant, Caleb Milton third lieutenant, Amanda Donnell secretary, Mariah Anthony, Pat Brunette, Dan Shabbat, Shane Duclos, Jacob Fuss, Andrew Goodwin Jr., Tyler Hunter, Tom Jackson, Mike Magnuson, Scott Milton, Dan Momini, Tim Momini, Jay Nelson, Eric Oates, Keith Stark, Derek Warden, terms expiring January 31st, 2025.
So moved for those reappointments.
Second.
In favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Discussion,
Oh,
sorry. So secretary, this is why I was,
changed to clerk.
yeah,
oh, that's right.
Okay.
this is why I was raising, why I wanted to have policies and procedures done before we got to appointments, and you guys had the annual meeting, right? Okay, so is that supposed to be clerk then?
Yes, we'll
Okay.
just make it clear.
Okay, all right,
Who's
Thank
in
you.
favor?
aye.
Aye. Okay. Kevin Connolly, Fred Fuller, Steve Malsh, Jim Wright as auxiliary members, term expiring 1/31/2025.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Cool. Okay. I think we're ready to move on. So, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to abstain on that one,
Be in touch.
FYI.
Okay. Four ayes and one abstain from B. Direct local technical assistant project.
What was the abstain for on the auxiliary?
No reason
Yeah.
stated.
Well, we
No,
didn't
no,
have discussion.
what was she asking, what was which motion was it?
Oh, for the auxiliary.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so this is the DLTA, comes out annually.
Yes.
It's money that's given to the FERCog. They're asking for people to, different town departments. I forwarded it to, I forwarded it to Planning Board, Conscom, Senior Center, Board of Health, Open Space. You guys, usually everybody who wants anything puts together their request, and you guys try to narrow it down. You submit one form. They only take one form. The only person I heard back from was the Planning Board.
Pollinator?
Well, he didn't send that, but you
Okay.
guys can put it in as yours. He
No, he
wanted
did
battery
last year.
storage bylaw.
Conscom had a meeting kerfuffle, so we still need to be able to meet on that.
I have to submit it by January 30th. Do you think they'll meet by next week? Or somebody can send me the...
We can,
Because you guys devote it tonight, or somebody has to tell me tonight, because by the 30th...
What
I
our
have to-
priorities are?
Yeah, I have to send it back to them, to the FERCog.
Well, usually what we do is, when's our next meeting? Is it before the 30th or no?
No,
Oh,
not
crap.
till the 6th.
I mean, I could hold it open, they'll yell at me, but you'd have to have
will it
them by then.
negatively, will holding it open negatively influence?
I don't think so.
No, we kind of got into that last year. What we did in the past is everybody fills it out individually, and then we get together because.
I saw that. I remember that watching that.
Yeah, so then, because we have to narrow it down to 3 or 4, and everybody kind of has their 3 or 4, and then there's some overlap, and there's feedback from the different committees, which is why I mentioned pollinator, because that's a perennial priority contestant, and it hasn't been a winner yet. So I like going through that process. I mean, I can give my priorities again tonight, but then we have to narrow them down to the top 3 or 4, right?
Top 3.
I think we squeezed it squeezed in like an extra
And if you read
last
their memo
year.
this year, they're not necessarily going to pick everybody. So
Yeah.
be careful what you choose because
Yeah.
they're real. You know, they only have a certain amount of money, and they were trying to hit every town, and they were just diluting their money to the point where they felt they were being somewhat ineffective in getting these things
Okay.
done. So you might not get picked for a year or so. So think about what your
Did
priorities
we get money
are.
last year on this?
We don't get money. They actually take on the project. So if
They
you know.
didn't really do much for us last year.
We used, I'm trying to think of last year, I'm thinking of the year before for sure. But like we might have been we might be
Isn't that
part
how we
of
got
a,
like MVP done, for example?
well, that was a specific grant through MVP. But
Okay.
we did, they did do things like when we were looking at a reuse originally for like the fire station, that was a project they took on. We didn't pay anything for that. So
That was
they
last
will
year.
pick various planning and economic things. If they can group them and do them as a group, they will, sometimes you're included in a group thing and that counts. Sometimes
Like the pollinator.
they
Yeah.
did help with bylaws for the planning board, the subdivision review 2 years ago. That was one of the things they worked on. So they have done projects with us. But
Do you have a sense what what would be likely candidates based on what?
you know, I'm certainly, I look through here and I'm trying to see, you know, what specifically Northfield would focus on. I know that, I know the planning board has some real bylaw needs, that they really need the assistance for those things. Are very hard to write on your own. But some of these things aren't Northfield priorities because they're putting them out for everybody. So the question becomes, you know, like,
Is the planning board, are you talking about bylaws for the planning board, or are you talking about the planning board is doing bylaws for the town?
they're interested in battery storage bylaw. I think that's town. They're interested in accessory dwelling units bylaw. They would like help on creating those two bylaws.
Okay.
And then they liked the, you know, regional municipal planner services. That's more of a regional one that they wanted to say is a priority for them.
Okay.
So that was their 3 suggestions.
Accessory dwelling units.
Battery storage.
That's
something
critical.
that's not in the solar bylaw currently.
That's something we're.
And there's new laws on that. Towns
Yeah,
are
and
not
if you
starting
don't
to-
have a bylaw, you're going to get screwed if somebody comes up with a project. So I would vote for that as a priority, for sure.
That's right. You can't do things on your own land in Massachusetts anymore. So
Well, you can, but then if other people have concerns about what that project is,
That's right.
and there's no bylaws, then there's nothing. We're leaving the planning board without anything to enforce.
Yeah, they need to
right?
have it,
And then
yeah.
everybody gets mad at the planning board, but the planning board actually needs stuff to enforce. So this would help get them up to speed and get our bylaws up to the point so they could enforce something if a project was presented to them. If it was presented now, we don't have anything that would address it.
So, Andrea, whether we could push it, what's the date we could push it to? Could we push it to the
I'd
next
like you
meeting?
guys to submit your stuff to me before the next meeting, and then I can collate it and come back and say, put everybody's name where
Yeah.
their 1, 2s, and 3s
Yeah.
are.
just send it to my email and I'll take care of it.
Yeah, so if you send me back this with Sarah's choices are, this is my first, this is my second, my third,
Yep.
then Heath's first, second, third, and then I'll put it in one document and you can look where you overlap, where your priorities are, have a discussion. I'll put planning boards in if Conscom gets me something. But if you guys can get that to me like the Thursday before your next meeting, which is, because that, it's gonna take me, or at least the Monday before your next meeting, so that I can put it in a document.
Well, then the other thing is you can
What's the
double
date?
check with FERCog on like what the
That would
hot
be the
ones are
5th
from
of
other
February.
towns.
If you guys
Yeah.
can get it to me by the
By
5th
the
of
5th?
February, then I can put it in one document. so that you can then get one document to see what everybody's preferences are.
Okay.
And I'll
Great.
just tell them it's coming after the 6th. You'll vote at the
Thank you
6th.
for stretching that.
Yeah, if we tell them that, we'll.
Great. All set? Approve annual report to the Alcoholic Beverage Control Commission.
Yep, it's in.
There's a document in the folder.
Yep. It is. It's pretty straightforward. Do you need it worded a particular way, Sandra? Or just that we approve it? Okay, I move that we approve the annual report to the Alcoholic Beverage Control Commission.
Second.
Discussion. Good to see that there are no violations. That means all these people are not serving children who will find a way to get alcohol either way, but still it's good to see that that they're doing their job and not doing that for their establishments. So good job to all that we issue permits to.
And total fees collected were $2,300.
Well done.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great.
Do we have something to sign?
It's probably in one of these. Yeah.
Okay. Topics not reasonably anticipated by the chair 48 hours in advance of the meeting.
Got one. I need your votes.
Okay.
I gotta have it by tomorrow.
Right.
So no discussion, because it's not on the agenda. You've discussed it many times on the agenda. All I need you to do is take 5 votes as to whether or not you support these and assign them to who's gonna move them tomorrow.
Okay.
5 votes to who? Okay. Okay. Just a second here. Oh, see daisies.
And then I will print this out with the motions and everything for the handout at the special.
Okay. All right.
And you have the planning board, the FinCom's on there. I put theirs on already.
Okay. I'd like to have everyone's full attention, so let's get this thing signed, and then we'll take it one at a time here. Remember, like Andrea said, we won't discuss anything. Don't want to break rules here. Okay, that's all signed. Okay, so Article 1. How do we word that?
You just gotta vote whether or not you recommend it. You can vote yes, you recommend, no, you don't
I
recommend,
move
or you
that
can
we.
abstain.
Yeah, someone else do
I
it.
move that we recommend Article 1.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so select board votes 5. Keep
May I
going,
ask
B?
a question that's not discussion?
Yeah, sure.
How much is in that? We're transferring 25K. How much is in the account?
I'll have the exact amount, but somewhere about 180.
Okay, thank you.
Cool.
I'd be happy to read that one
Please,
too.
yeah, if you'd like
If you
to read
want
it.
to do the, because we've got 5.
Yeah, if each person could read one.
Yep.
Okay.
So B for 1. Okay, you want to do the second one, B, and reading it, or motioning it?
I move that we recommend Article 2 for the special town meeting.
Second.
Is there a discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay.
Who wants to
Um,
move it?
Who wants to read it?
Just a second. I'll read it. Yeah, I'll read that.
Okay. That should be yours on the committee.
Oh, right.
Select
We can
board
switch
voted
if you
for-
want.
We'll see.
Okay.
I have a question for Article 3, if I may.
Yeah, what's up?
Would it be possible, Andrea, to add, I think one of the things that came up at the discussion on Sunday was the understanding that the money already has been voted for the police and is going to be, and more than this, is planned to be returned to the town to free spending. Is there a way to put some of that?
I put due to unfilled police staffing, there's funding that will not be needed to staff the police department for the remainder of the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2024.
How about and will be returned, the one important item seemed to be that, this is not, we're not asking for more money. This is money that was already allocated and would normally be returned to the town.
So-
He said at the meeting it was 60 to 80,000 that, barring an incident would be returned to the town. And
Yeah, I'm not sure I put a number on it, only because you don't know what'll happen with overtime and
Right.
something. But I can add some line to the effect that there will still be additional money afterwards,
Okay,
even after this,
okay.
to that last bullet, talking about that we have the money due to unfilled staffing, and this won't even use all of that, so to speak. Money will close out.
And is it understood that that money goes back to free cash? I mean, do we need to put something like that?
All money that closes out June 30th goes back to free cash.
I hear you. I know that you understand that. Is it generally understood, do you think? And so my question was, might we add it?
Well, you get smart people that show up at town meeting, and you also get not smart people who
Or
who
people
aren't
new to the town?
new to the town who are not familiar with the
Say it
language.
closes out to free cash on June 30th.
Yeah,
That's
we can
not a
do
big
that.
deal.
I think it's important to say that for in general. Yeah, not just for one motion, but I think in this one, in particular, people were concerned about it coming out of salaries.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, good point. Very good.
Okay, I move that we recommend Article 3.
As amended?
And- What?
As amended?
The article isn't amended.
No, it's just
Oh,
the
oh, oh.
notes.
I
So we're
see.
good?
The notes are as amended.
Yep. And I'm recommending that Sarah read this one at the,
That's fine, I'm willing to
Yeah.
do that.
Sure. So Sarah can read it.
because you brought it up. I
I
think
would
then you
like
get
a
the
second.
full
Second.
life cycle.
Who
Yeah.
seconded it? I don't get
He
away.
did.
Okay. Discussion. Yes, Sarah will read it. This has been her thing. Okay. All in favor?
Hi.
Aye.
Aye. Great.
Okay, Article 4, I move that we recommend Article 4 for the special town meeting.
Second.
Discussion.
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 I'll read that.
Ooh, Bernie's got that one.
Bernard.
Okay.
5.
Okay, 5, I move that we recommend Article 5 for the special town meeting.
Actually, there's 6. Somebody's got to
Second.
double up.
Whoops.
Discussion.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, we're on 5, never
5,
mind.
yeah.
Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I can read
Okay.
that.
Yep.
Keith. Article 6.
I move that we recommend Article 6 for the special town meeting.
Discussion. Sorry, Heath, you seconded that?
Yep.
Okay. Discussion.
I'm sorry, did I interrupt?
No, we're in discussion.
Okay, I think that, I know that it says it, but it might be useful, maybe it's just in comments that we clarify, that all we're voting for is to ask the law to be changed, so nothing will be happening immediately. It has to go back to the state, correct?
That's
Yeah,
correct.
yes.
You mean
I'll
under
put in a
notes?
note that
Yeah.
it has
Yeah.
to be filed as a home rule
Yeah.
petition with the state.
So I see here, while we're still in discussion, that the Finance Committee voted 1 no and 5 abstained on this article. So, no,
But there's no monetary outlay on this except for, I guess there's 2 stipends, right?
Yeah, and originally they were going to pass on it, and then because it does actually increase the budget for a stipend, they decided they should vote on it, and hence had one person with a certain kind of opinion, but the others all abstained.
They're not in the sewer district.
They abstain. I think that's relevant because 1 didn't vote and 5 abstentions.
One voted no.
One voted
One
no.
voted no and 5 abstentions. If they abstained not because they didn't like it, but because they weren't in the sewer district, I mean, is that, I don't know if
No.
that's,
That's
some of
my
them-
general interpretation as an audience member. It's up
I
to
see.
the finance members to represent their
Well,
opinions.
at least
Yeah.
one of them's in the fire district.
okay.
Yeah,
I
and
mean,
he
in the
abstained.
sewer
Yeah.
district.
And the
was a
reasons,
mix. It was a mix of $/concerns about.
yeah.
and the reasons on Sunday that came forward that the expansion was needed were threefold. The first was that more hands to do the work. The second was that with only 3 people, nobody could have a conversation without abridging open meeting law. So having 5 people would allow 2 people to get in and do the work, and would allow subcommittees and stuff like that. And then the last was the other side of that coin, which is that there were multiple ways to make a quorum, because they've had one member who had an illness or whatever. So there are multiple ways to make a quorum of 3 if there are 5 members, whereas a quorum of 2 from 3 members is much more difficult. And so the idea was was versatility. But those were the 3 reasons that were given.
Oh, there's a lot of things I could say right now, but I'm not going to.
I mean, I would just ask them after it's motion to speak to it.
Yeah.
And they
maybe
can
I'll-
state all of those. It's probably more powerful coming from them.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would think more powerful coming from a sewer commissioner who says,
Yeah.
our hands are tied and make the pay.
I mean, we hardly need a 5-member select board in the town of 3,000. I don't know why we need a 5-member sewer commission.
There's been a lot of work
for
going
a
on,
town
really
that
a lot
only
of
has
work.
300 sewer
So
users.
did we determine who's going to do it?
No, who's gonna read it?
I definitely don't want
I'll read it.
Okay.
Go ahead, Bernie. You can read it. We'll take a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
No.
Aye.
No.
Okay.
So
Majority
what did
rules.
you say?
What was
Well,
that?
I'm just voting, I just put who
We're
votes.
just voting
So I
recommend.
have two
Whether-
no's and how many, you have a yes?
2 yeses.
You're a yes?
We're voting whether to recommend it.
Yes, I know. I'm just, say who did what again?
I voted nay.
I voted yes.
No.
And yes.
How did you vote?
I haven't voted.
Oh. Are you abstaining? I guess we're still in.
Yes. Sorry, I'm going to abstain.
Okay, so we have an abstain from B,
Okay.
2 no's and 2 yeses.
Yeah, it's not about passing, it's I list them.
Right,
So
this
that
has
we-
nothing to do
Whether we
with the
recommend it.
passing or anything
Correct.
of this article for those watching. This is about whether we
Nope.
are recommending the article or not.
Right, that's.
And we do not have a majority of the select board recommending this article.
Well, we're passing it on to the voters.
We're passing it
Right.
on to the
The
voters.
voters get to
It
vote.
has
As
nothing-
requested.
As requested, has
Yep.
nothing to do with us.
Yep.
Okay.
But that is
Fine.
my
That's all I
opinion,
needed.
and that's all I have to say about it.
Okay.
Sorry if nobody likes it.
Is-
That's perfectly acceptable. Okay. What else? we
Oh,
got?
we gotta do all those reappointments.
Outstanding.
So we're
that-
done with that?
Yeah, we
Yes.
are done with that.
Great.
Fine.
Because it's almost 8:30 and we have another meeting tomorrow night.
Yes, we do. Okay. Committee and board appointments. Reaffirming special town employees with a vote to designate the members of the Board of Health, Board of Assessors, and the Conservation Commission's contract consultant as special municipal town employees pursuant to the state policy of the Select Board adopted October 6, 2015. So
So
that-
is it as simple as I move that we designate the
Yes.
members of the Board of Health, the Board of Assessors, and the Conservation Commission's contract consultant as, quote, special municipal town employees, end quote, pursuant to the state policy of the Select Board adopted October 6, 2015.
What does it mean? What is
I
special
need a
municipal
second,
town
and then we can do
employee?
discussion.
That was a motion. Second.
Yeah.
discussion.
A special municipal employees, because there are certain rules about who can serve in certain capacities, but because you're a town under 5,000, you have to designate special municipal employees. For the cleanest example to say is the Board of Assessors. You have your assessor's clerk on the Board of Assessors. A lot of towns do that, but because it's designated as special municipal employees, she can serve on that board. You often have that
I
with the
see,
Board of
okay.
Health, who some of them do work that might pertain
Overlaps,
to their
yeah.
business and
Got
overlap.
it.
Same with the conscom person who's acting as the consultant.
Mhm,
They're
mhm.
designated special municipal employees because they're given certain powers because we're in small towns.
Got it. Thank you for the explanation.
Yeah. Because basically in a small town, everybody does 3 different things.
Right.
And just further so Sarah understands, you do this every year.
Yes.
You have to do it every
Yeah.
year.
And because those boards have very specific legal powers under state law,
Yeah.
they've created this avenue that doesn't kick everybody off of those boards because you have limited pool
Right.
of people to do them.
Okay.
Nice. Just a question for me and my experience on this board. When we say further discussion, does that mean we have a further discussion on the agenda item itself or solely the motion?
The motion.
So we should be discussing the motion.
Yes, but
as
if you're
opposed-
asking for clarification as to what you're
On the
doing, I
motion.
think
I always
that,
wondered
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
I mean, if she's saying what is a special municipal employee, that's in the motion. So
Yeah.
I think that's
It's like, any last words.
that's within the
okay.
scope of the.
Okay. Cool, thank you. We appoint Floyd
You haven't
Donnell.
voted it. You haven't voted it, right?
All in favor?
Didn't they just move it? Did they pass it?
I
No.
have a motion and a second.
Didn't take a vote.
Darn it.
I'm just all over the place right now. How are we voting? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to reappoint Floyd Donnell as Emergency Management Director. Term expires 1/30/2025.
I would like to, no, just a second, could you just say Floyd Donnell III?
Yeah.
Thank you.
I believe
Good
the
catch,
first
Alex.
Floyd Donnell passed away a long time ago.
Okay.
And I seconded.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion to reappoint Amanda Donnell as Assistant Emergency Management Director. Term expires 1/30/2025.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Move to appoint Annie Chappelle, Kelly Sibley, Joanne Pickar, Elizabeth Whitcomb, Jane Kilgore, and Christine Harris as election officers. Term expire 8/15/24.
Second.
Discussion? Oh, sorry. None? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Proposed agenda items.
SRO.
Yes,
SRO.
we need to discuss the SRO and some
Detail.
hot information and details regarding that.
Just so you know,
I really wanted it to be on this agenda, but
we posted kind of before that.
we got a little too close, and we got to follow the law. That's important to do when you're an elected board, is to follow the law. So, yeah,
Plus, we need more time.
we do. Yeah, it's a time
You
thing.
do have a Eurovia hearing. That shouldn't take very long.
A what hearing?
Eurovia, the company Eurovia,
Oh.
has a special hearing. If you're going to do the SRO, might I suggest, they're also asking, let's take a step back. The Finance Committee Chair is asking to come briefly to ask you, they're going to reconstitute that 3-town Select Board Finance Committee thing, so he wants to come in and talk to the Select Board briefly about that.
Oh.
And if that's the case, since you're doing SRO and that, do you want to put the 6-town regionalization discussion? I know you keep bringing that up as a potential.
We need to have that discussion too, just because they're starting to create their own district agreement separate from Pioneers. They're starting to create a district agreement for that 6-town regionalization and stuff. So I mean, it's going to be in front of us sooner than later,
And have been saying that they have the support of the towns.
which is what we need to talk about. So we definitely should
Well,
put
they
that on our
shouldn't
next
be
agenda.
speaking on our behalf.
So those things will already be on there, those 3 things. I just want to know.
Andrea,
Yep.
did Ty and Bond reach out to you?
About coming to see you guys on the 6th.
Oh.
If you want to make an appointment to talk about sewer with Ty and Bond.
And,
Okay.
And invite Karen and Tommy.
Right.
Yeah, but they, it's something to do with Ty and Bond.
I had
managing
spoken to
the
them a while
project.
ago about maybe bringing a discussion to you about capital asset management plan, since they did the
Yeah, I was
presentation.
on the meeting today when we talked with them.
So is there something wrong with getting the entire sewer commission to show up to something like that?
I don't know if you can get.
But they should post. They should at least post, because
They'll
it'd be a
post, yeah.
majority of them, 2 of
Yeah,
them.
I mean, Tommy
Okay.
is dependent on the
The
weather
weather.
I'm
this
gonna
time of year.
I'm gonna move the
The other
fire
one,
chief
I
succession
don't
off
at least
because we've
try.
already had that discussion tonight. I don't think you need to
Well,
put it.
what I'm saying is, if he can plow my street. He's able to get in a truck and plow my street. You'd think he'd be able to show up. To the
Okay,
meeting.
guys.
I have another agenda
yeah,
item.
Agendas.
So,
Topics.
one is the old firehouse owned by the town, used by the Boy Scouts next door, here, right next door on the property. It has a leaky roof, inadequate insulation, and no heat. I'd love to discuss that, and maybe, obviously we want to put that before a grant, upcoming grant coordinator, but those are issues that I'd like to put on the
Yeah,
agenda.
we've looked into that. There's not a lot of grants. We've really urged them to go for the CPC. 2 years in a row now. I'm not quite sure why they haven't put those projects together. CPC seems to be for historical preservation, because that is a
Okay.
historical building.
Right. Yep.
So whatever we do over there is going to be a little bit more complicated.
Yep.
Because it is actually declared historical building.
Yeah, do
The
something with it,
historical
or it is going to
commission
be
would have to
history.
review
So
it.
and there should be some discussion about the
Usage.
future of that building. Like, how much do you want to put into it? What do you want to put into it? Is it 24/7 days? Is it 12? you know, heating, because I know that they got a heating issue. There should probably be a big discussion on that building.
If you seal it up, then you can heat it as needed. You don't have to heat it all the time. If it's well insulated and the windows and stuff like that. Okay.
Yep.
So that's number one. Number two, I'd like to discuss the town website. We've talked about how it's kind of hard to find things, and some people think that and some people don't. So I'd like to discuss it. Also, on Sunday, it came to light that the moderator doesn't have, it can't be found on that page, and I'd love to put a page for him that says, you know, what the town moderator does, and have an email contact for him, and then discuss page editing access for the various boards. You know, we've talked about ConsCom and various other boards going in and editing their own stuff, and I'm not sure that it's universally available to them. So that kind of discussion.
Is that a discussion or a request?
A discussion about the town website.
Oh, okay.
That has
In
already
general.
been requested by
And that's all the
ConsCom.
detail associated with the topic?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Just
Okay.
things to discuss
All right.
about the town website. The town moderator, we haven't done it before this meeting, but the town moderator about ADA, I asked that he be brought as a person, a visitor, to discuss ADA, and in a separate conversation, but at the same time, electronic voting. Orange has done electronic voting, and so we have a local comparator.
Are they a representative town meeting?
I'm sorry.
Are they a representative town meeting?
I don't know. I just know that it was a local
I
town.
think they might be.
I believe they are.
That makes a
Okay.
huge difference.
Yeah, I'm sure it does. And then the last one is town voting events. I would like to discuss kind of putting into, I don't know whether it would be policy or procedure or something that or just kind of tradition. We had over 30 people show up to this event, and I only personally, I put it on Nextdoor and I put some flyers out, and that, so it was almost no coverage, and so many people showed up and really were interested and engaged. And
The finance committee had a discussion about that last night too.
Yeah,
They're
and
really
we had
interested too.
And I know they do something a couple weeks ahead of time, and this was a little bit more of a casual get together. And I can do it myself, and once everybody knows that it's happening, I can reach out and they'll know that it's going to be the weekend before a vote. But I don't know. I just wanted to bring up the idea of doing good stuff.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I'm going to shape the topic. So the topic would be having some sort of panel / pre-meeting to the town meeting, get it on the calendar early so it's not falling on one person.
Mm-hmm.
And then all the other committees understand, because some of that was casual contact kind of at the end.
Mm-hmm.
And then it can go on to the postcard. That was the other thing
Yeah, that
came
would've
up
been great.
last night. So what I would recommend is put it on there and let's fine tune like what worked and what didn't,
Yeah.
and then get it on the calendar for the annual. So then everybody knows what's happening when, and then I think we could have a better.
I think that's what the finance committee wanted to come
Yeah.
to the select board. They wanted to be more
Yeah.
involved, and
That's
when
basically what I
when
heard
worked
from
in another
them last
town, much of it was done by the town clerk.
And the town moderator at that Sunday thing said that there were some towns that had 3-day sessions. So that for a town meeting, when there are a whole bunch, they'll say on this day we're discussing 1 through 5, and on this day we're discussing 6 through 10 and stuff like that. So it gives people an opportunity. I would like to be on the record as requesting some preservation of that casual. Where people, maybe we have a session at the end where people can just come up and ask questions, because that's really valuable to have
We'll just
that
fold
kind of
that
open
into
access.
I'm just shaping the topic, not the discussion,
Right.
and then we'll flesh it out more. Yeah, but I had some thoughts, and also after sitting in on the FinCom last night, I heard a lot from them on their ideas too that I can turn back into the discussion. Okay.
Any other proposed agenda items?
I'm just looking at this list. It's not a new proposal. We had talked about tackling all the school subjects at the same time, the SRO, the 6-town, and the Pioneer Valley Regional School District Agreement is going to be coming up as well.
I think the idea was to put that on the next one.
That's fine, however you want to break it up, but I think we need my concern was that on each of these important topics, we need to be organized, because otherwise we're just going to be reacting to yet another meeting.
Right.
Where, you know, there's many towns and many other subcommittees and stuff, and I just assume be in sync with everybody about who's going to go and represent whom when. Yeah. Okay, that's it.
I will do my usual consultation with the administrative body of the town to put together an agenda factoring everybody's words.
Yes.
Yes. Announcements. I have 2 announcements. This is more for us, but it does relate to the public as well. The town administrator evaluation is officially done. I crafted the document. And the way I did it was that I wrote down literally what everybody said on it, so there's no argument on how it's interpreted. The only person out of everybody that I had to cut back on what was said a little bit was yourself, B, because you wrote an extremely descriptive eval. But I did the best I could to factor in the most strongest points about what you were saying for each section, so that you're equally as represented to everybody else in the document. The reason why I did that is because it really would have been extremely long, and but like I read it, this is why it took almost 2 months for me to do. I really wanted it written as unbiased and as fair as possible, and I didn't want anybody to argue with me over the interpretation of how things are worded, which is why I chose to do it this way. I didn't like pick and choose anything like, oh, I don't like what this person says. I don't do that. That's not how I work. And as the authority, as the chair, where I was told by many times by Andrea that this is the way you can do it however you want to do it, because you're the one that's doing it, you're the one writing it. So that's the way I chose to do it.
But you did edit mine.
No, everybody's was edited, and everybody had spelling and grammar and stuff and mistakes in theirs.
So you edited everyone's?
Yes, everybody else's was edited, and
right.
Everybody had things where it's like, it's a little repetitive, it's cut back. I'm trying to make a nice document that's reflective of all of what we're trying to say.
That's what you were supposed to do?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, let's move on then.
No, I'm not done yet.
Okay, go
ahead. What I had to do also with this document is for the grading and stuff, everybody that voted on a grade, I added them all up together, and then I chose the average of where it would be. And sometimes that was on 3, 4, weren't any 5s or anything like that. So if it was up the middle, I literally drew in Microsoft Word right up the middle for that. So it's the best I could do, and so that will eventually, for the residents, be posted.
No.
Will not be posted. I stand corrected.
Those are my personnel file.
Your personnel file, but they could, we as a board could have access to that.
Yeah, well, yes, you should share it with all the board members.
That's correct, yes. And then lastly, the town meeting is tomorrow night at 6:30 at 97 Fort Sumner Turner Road, also commonly known as the Pioneer Valley Regional School. So let's show up and be good, proactive citizens and vote and share our, you know how it is, yeah. So, so that's it.
Chair, I'm sorry, I forgot one agenda item. May I that I'd like included? May I add it?
Sure.
The Economic Development Advisory Council has had a non-attending member for a while, and I know that because we've appointed, we have to come through to remove and reappoint. So or remove and so I just wanted to add that to the agenda.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. We have an executive. Any recognition of service?
Yeah. Scott Thayer, coach of the PVRS basketball team, had his 300th career win. So I just wanted to offer congratulations to someone who's been working with PVRS students for a long time and has developed a successful program.
Ooh. Nice. Good for Scott.
I want to recommend the folks who offered to show up on Sunday. The chief of police and Karen Boudreau, sewer commissioner, our town moderator, David McCarthy, who's on the finance committee, and B and I. And we came in our spare time to answer a lot of questions, and I was really pleased with the amount of information that could be given out. So thank you for coming.
Outstanding. Okay, executive session.
Oh,
Yeah, you've got an executive
oh,
session.
okay.
So you have to go
Someone
into
read it and then say not to return to opening.
I make a motion to enter executive session. Do I need to read the whole item?
Everything as
Okay.
worded.
To address approve executive minutes, executive session minutes from 10/17/23 and 11/7/23. Review approval under General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A, subsection 7, to comply with or act under the authority of any general or special law or federal grant in aid requirements, not to return to open session.
Any discussion?
Second.
Second? Any discussion? All in favor? Roll call vote.
Kearns, aye.
Heath, yes.
Bernie, yes.
Alex, yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Night, folks.